Good morning and welcome to
Buenos días
the
y
Los Angeles
bienvenidos
City
al Concilio de
Council.
la Ciudad.
Today
Hoy
is
es
June 3rd,
junio 3 del
2003.
2003.
While we are waiting for
Mientras estamos
formal
esperando
quorum, we have a
quórum
couple
formal, tenemos un par de
presentations. So this
presentaciones. Entonces,
time I'd like to recognize
me gustaría
Mr.
conocer al
Tom
señor
Labonge, the representative from the 4th Council
del
District, for a
cuarto distrito
presentation.
para una
Thank you,
presentación.
Mr. President.
Gracias,
Good morning,
presidente.
members.
Buenos días, miembros.
With me this morning
Conmigo
is
esta mañana está
Joseph Shea.
I've known
Joseph Shea
lo
about 15
conocido
years.
como 15 años.
Because Jose lived on a block
Joseph
and he
vivía
didn't
con una
want to
cuadra y
tolerate
no
what
quería
was going
tolerar
on
lo
on
que
that
estaba
block.
pasando en esa cuadra.
And he developed
Y él
a
desarrolló
group, a neighborhood association
una
called the
asociación de
Eyeball
vecinos
Hawks. And he engaged and worked
y
with
se
the young
puso
people
con
of the
trabajo con la gente
community
joven de la
in trying to
comunidad,
improve the
tratando de
quality of
mejorar
life
la
in this
calidad de
section
vida
of
para esta
Hollywood,
sección de
just
Hollywood,
north of Hollywood
al
and
norte de
Vine,
Hollywood y
north
Vine,
of
al
Bob
norte
Square,
del cuadro
in
de
a
Bob
pretty nice
en un
neighborhood,
vecindario
but
muy
needed
bonito,
more
pero
love and
necesitaba
affection.
más amor y
And Joe
afecto.
brought that love and
Y yo
affection
trajo ese
to the
amor y afecto
Eyeball area and was a great leader. He also was very passionate about many
de
issues
muchas
here.
cuestiones aquí.
And this is, you'll be pleased that
Y
these are
esto
all
se
young
vio que
people
son
from
gente
Hollywood
joven de
High
la
who just
escuela
got applauded
que acaban de
for
aplaudir
words from Alex
de
Padilla.
palabras de Alex Padilla.
I'm going to take this visitor's off because you're not a
Voy a tomar la
visitor.
visitante aquí.
But Joe Shea has
Pero
been very
Joe ha
involved
sido
over the
muy
years
envuelto en los
as a
años
community
como
activist
activista de
in
la
the truest
comunidad.
sense in the grassroots efforts.
Los
And Joe is
esfuerzos.
leaving Los
Y ahora está
Angeles
yendo a
and
Los
leaving
Ángeles, está yendo de
California
California
and going
y se va
east to
al
Florida
este
to be
de
closer
Florida
to
para
his
estar más
family.
cerca de su
He has
familia.
2 grown children,
Tiene 2 hijos ya
but
grandes,
he's going to be closer
pero va a
to
estar
his
más
family,
cerca de
which
su
is
familia,
nice.
que
But
está
he made
bien.
an impact
Pero él hizo un impacto
in Los
en
Angeles,
Los
an impact
Ángeles,
in
un
Hollywood.
impacto en Hollywood.
And I wanted, before he
Él quiere
cut
antes
the
de
old
que
Greyhound
cortara
bus tomorrow, you take
el
a
camión
Greyhound? You're going to
Como-
drive, I know, I teach you. I wanted to just have you come
quería
down
que
and say a
viniera y
few words
decir
and
unas
address the
palabras
council.
y
Please
hablar
welcome
con el
Mr.
concilio
Joe Shea.
de las gracias.
Thank you very much.
Muchas gracias.
This great body
Este gran
has
cuerpo ha
deliberated
deliberado
many great issues in
muchas
its
cuestiones
time,
grandes en
has
su
great
tiempo
work
y ha
ahead
hecho
of it.
trabajo adelante de ellos.
I bid you
Yo
farewell with
les doy la
the
despedida
fondest of hopes for
con
your
las
future
esperanzas,
and for the
mejores
city's
esperanzas para el
future.
futuro y el futuro de la ciudad.
Some of these are
Algunos de
contained
estos
in
son
this poem
contenidos en este
called The
poema que
Hymn to
llama
Los Angeles
Himno a Los
that I'd
Ángeles,
like to read
que
to
me
you
gusta
today.
leerles hoy.
And I hope you'll
Y
pardon my
espero que
articulation for the very
perdonen mi
first time I
articulación
put
por la
in
primera vez
new
lo
pair of
puso
dentures
unas
made for me
dentaduras
down
para
at
mí
the great University
en
of
la gran
Southern
Universidad del Sur de
California
California
by a student dentist
por un
Maria Bayat.
estudiante.
My hymn to Los
Mi himno a
Angeles.
Los Ángeles,
Christmas Day,
el día de Christmas
1985.
1985.
So here's the city
Entonces aquí está
peaceful,
la
young
ciudad
and free.
joven y
Your
libre,
hours
sus
carve an
horas
instant of the
marcadas un
law
instante de la ley
that bears our
que
ancient
lleva
burdens
nuestros
to the sea. I walk
cosas
along
por
your
su
streets at
camino por las
dawn in
para
awe
amanecer
of marble, gilded,
muebles,
soaring
edificios más
steel and glass, was lifted to
se
your
levantó a
heights
sus
and
alturas
to your
y a
lows,
sus
and
bajos
saw myself
y
in every
algunos en
face I
cada cara
passed.
que paso.
And far
Y
and
mucho
free
y
and
libres
fast
y
as I could
rápido como
go,
puedo ir.
an even freer
Y está
spirit
más,
went
el espíritu más
ahead,
libre fue para adelante.
whose course the
Que
gentle,
curso
willing seemed to
para
know,
parece ver.
and willingly
Y
I
yo
followed
sigo
where it led,
donde nos llevó.
and where
Y
the
donde
river
el río
Lee turns to
se
light.
cambia la luz.
I felt my
Yo
darkness
sentí mi
lift,
oscuridad levantarse
unfolding night.
en la
I
noche,
thank you
desaparecer.
very,
Les doy
very much
muchas
for all
gracias
you've
por
given to
todo
me
lo que me han dado
for the city of
a
Los
la ciudad de Los
Angeles.
Ángeles.
Thank you very, very much.
Muchas gracias.
Don't go anywhere yet.
No se vayan.
I'd like to recognize Councilmember
Reconocer al
Zine
concejal Zine.
at this point.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues,
Gracias,
I
presidente.
want
Colegas,
to
yo quiero
express my
expresar mi
appreciation for the fine
aprecio por
articles
los
that
artículos
you've
tan
written.
buenos
I
que he
know the time
escrito
you spent at City
desde que el
Hall,
tiempo se
your
pasó en el
love for the
City
city,
Hall, su amor para la
your
ciudad,
love for the people of Los
su amor
Angeles
para
and
la
all
ciudad
the
de
good
Los
work
Ángeles
you've
por el
done.
trabajo
I
que he
didn't
hecho.
hear where you were
Yo no vi
traveling
lo que
to.
estaba viajando
Bradenton, Florida.
Bradenton,
Bradenton,
Florida.
Florida.
where there are many mosquitoes,
donde hay muchos mosquitos,
like the size of
Bigger than
airplanes,
you
el
are.
tamaño de
bigger than they, mosquitoes the size of airplanes,
los mosquitos tamaño de
humidity.
aeroplanes, la humedad.
I just came back from a
Acabo de
conference
regresar de
there
una conferencia
in
ahí.
Coral Springs,
Coral Springs.
and the mosquitoes will
Los
like come
mosquitos
down and
están
swoop
fuera.
you away. But then
But
always
always secure white beaches.
yeah, the beaches were beautiful, absolutely beautiful
Preciosas.
beaches. But always know that
Pero siempre
you're
sepa
welcome
que
back
están
here in the fine city
bienvenida
of
aquí
Los
en la gran ciudad de Los
Angeles. And I
Ángeles.
appreciate all the
Y
fine work
aprecio
you've
todo
done.
el
I know
trabajo
the
que ha hecho. Yo
dedication
sé que la
and the
dedicación que
spirit
el
that you
espíritu que
have
usted
raised in the
ha
community,
hecho en la comunidad,
what you've done to help
lo que ha
people
hecho para
in
ayudar a
the
la
community
gente en la
and
comunidad,
all for Los
en todo
Angeles.
para
So
Los
my
Ángeles. Entonces, mis
congratulations to you and best
felicitaciones a
wishes
ustedes y
in your
mejores
endeavors in
deseos.
Florida.
Thank you so much,
Su
Councilman
trabajo,
Zion.
Gloria, gracias, señor presidente.
Your proclamation is
Su
on the way,
proclamación
but as you leave
ahorita
this
viene,
great
pero cuando
city,
salgo de esta
as
gran
you
ciudad,
travel across
cuando
this
viaje por
great country,
un
take a
país,
loaf of
tome
hunted bread made not
y
far
lleve
from your
pan de
home at
papa
the
no muy lejos
Monastery of
de
the
los
Angels, below the
Monasterio de
Hollywood
los Ángeles,
sign,
abajo
as a gift from the
de
people
Los
of Los
Ángeles,
Angeles.
como
Thank
regalo
Big
de
Joe
Los
Shea
Ángeles.
for all you've done. Thank you very much, Joe
Muchas
Shea.
gracias,
We
Joe
just
Shea.
ended my Atkins diet. Thank you very, very much.
Let me add my congratulations as well, Joe. We will miss you. The Hollywood community will miss you, and we know that you won't be far away.
Sabemos
We
que no
look
está
forward
muy
to
lejos,
welcoming you back for not too long.
bienvenida
Thank
por
you
mucho
very,
tiempo.
very
Happy
much.
trails. All right.
Thank you.
I'd like to recognize at this
Me gusta
point,
reconocer ahorita.
Mr. LeBron
Just
again.
one thing, Mr. President, we can't do this often
No podemos
enough,
ser
but the
tan
great
seguido,
Stan
pero
Chambers is
Stan
here
Chambers
from
está aquí.
KTLA Channel
El
5, the
KTLA
greatest
Canal
working
5.
newsman. Give him a big hand, Stan Chambers.
Thank you, Mr. LeBron.
Gracias,
I'd like to recognize Councilwoman Hahn.
Councilwoman Hahn.
I don't know whether to burn them, send them to him, or what should I do? Should I send them to him?
Mr. President,
El
colleagues,
presidente,
ladies and
colegas,
gentlemen,
damas y caballeros,
get ready for a drum
están
roll.
listos para...
I would like to present
Me
to you
gustaría
the San
presentar
Pedro
a
High School
la high
girls
school
softball team, winners
Y
of
que
the
pasamos del
2003 City
2003
Championship.
campeonato de la ciudad.
Come on, girls.
Párense atrás de mí.
This great
Este
girls
gran
softball team beat
equipo de
Carson
softball
High School
le ganó a
last Tuesday
Carson
night
High School el
at
martes
UCLA's
pasado
Easton
el
Field,
UCLA
1-0.
1-0.
This is the fourth
Este es la
consecutive
cuatro
title
consecutivo
for the
título
Pirates,
para
and
los
this year they
Piratas y
played
este año
31
jugaron 31
games.
juegos.
Listen to this.
Oigan esto,
With only
con
one
solamente
loss
una
the
pérdida
entire season.
toda la
The
temporada.
team was
El
led by
equipo fue
captains
llevado por el
Ashley
capitán Ashley
Esparza and
Esparza y
Stephanie
Stephanie
Spihai.
Pihai.
Ashley,
Ashley,
a junior pitcher,
una pitcher junior.
and we're really glad that you're
Estamos
just a
felices que
junior.
sea un junior nomás.
Ashley, a junior pitcher,
Una
went
pitcher,
23-1 on the year with an
en el año
ERA of
con una
0.17, less than one run
menos de una
earned
corrida
against her
ganada
all
contra
year.
ella
That's
todo el año.
incredible.
Es increíble.
In fact,
En hecho,
not only was she
no
such a
solo
great
estuvo hecha una
pitcher,
gran
but
pitcher,
she
pero ella
belted the
se echó
game-winning hit down
estuvo
right
ganando
field line
el
Tuesday night.
el
Let's
martes
hear it for
pasado.
Ashley.
Vamos a darle
These girls are a shining
muchachas
example of what
brillan
women
ejemplo
can
de lo que las
do
mujeres pueden hacer
when we work together
cuando
as a
trabajamos
team.
juntas como equipo.
Together they had
Juntas
two
hemos
huge
dos
winning
muy
streaks, 18
grandes,
games and
18
12
juegos y
games.
12
And
juegos.
together they won the Downing
Los dos
Tournament,
ganó
the El Segundo
el segundo
Tournament, and the
tournament,
Marine League
y el Marine
co-title.
League
And
co-title,
together
y
they won
juntas
the City
ganaron el
Championship.
campeonato de
And
la
Eric
ciudad.
Garcetti
Y
and
Eric
Rich, you know I'm
Garcetti,
going to
Rich,
say this,
y
girls
Rich,
rule.
las mujeres.
Congratulations
Felicitaciones y
and congratulations to your
felicitaciones a
coach who's
su
here this morning,
coach
Coach
está
Tony
aquí, Tony
Dobra,
Dobra,
and of course
y
to
claro,
my favorite
de mi
wonderful principal,
favorita,
Steve Walters. I would like to present
Director me
this
gusta prestar
certificate
este
to Coach
certificado
Dobra
al
and
coach
Principal
Dobra y
Walters
al
this
director
morning,
Walters esta mañana.
and we've got a plaque
Y tenemos una
that's in the
placa que
mail,
está en el
and we'll be getting
correo.
to later,
Y se los
and
vamos a
then
dar
I
más
have
adelante. Tengo certificados para
each
cada uno
of the winning
de los
girls on the
ganadores,
team.
mujeres
We'll do
ganadoras.
that after
Eso lo
the
vamos a hacer después de la
ceremony.
cena.
On
Entonces,
behalf
como
of
parte de
very happy
el muy
and
feliz
ecstatic,
y estática
Councilwoman of the
consejera
15th
del
District,
Distrito
and also
15
the
y
whole city
también
of
toda la
Los
ciudad de Los
Angeles.
Ángeles.
I want to
Quiero
congratulate San Pedro
felicitarlos
High
a San
School
Pedro High
in
School
recognition
en
of your great
reconocimiento de su
teamwork
gran
and for
equipo y
successfully
por
winning the Los Angeles
exitosamente
City
ganar el
Championship
campeonato
game
de la
for the
ciudad por
fourth
las
title
cuatro
with an
veces,
overall record
con un
of 30
récord de
wins and
31
1 loss.
y 1
Your
perdida.
continued sportswomanship and teamwork
Y
continues
tu
to
equipo
reign
que
as
se
real
gana su reino
champions.
como campeonato. Muchas
Congratulations, coach.
felicitaciones, coach.
Congratulations.
Felicitaciones, director.
Mr. Labange.
Señor Lamanche.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Gracias,
I
señor
want to
presidente.
again
Yo otra vez
congratulate
felicitar
San Pedro High
a
School.
San Pedro High
They seem to be
School.
down here
Parece que están
every
aquí
other
cada
quarter,
otro cuarto.
during the year with some
Durante el año
championship.
con un campeonato.
I just wanted to make, and
Más
I
quiero,
never like to
y nunca
correct
me
Janet
gusta
Hahn,
corregir a
but she
Janet
spoke
Pérez,
of
dijo,
girls'
habló
rule, but
de que
it's
las
San
mujeres reinas,
Pedro
pero
girls'
San
rule.
Pedro
They're the city champs, so if I can stand for that.
Sí,
And
por
I love
eso,
the
me
great
gusta la
photograph
gran
in the Los
fotografía de
Angeles
los
Times
Los
that the
Ángeles, que el fotógrafo los agarró sus
it
uniformes
dropped the P on
y dejó
pilots
el
and I raped, and I
PPRs.
thought it was kind of a cute
Y fue
little play as the
así.
photographers always do capture that, but
Juegan con
wish you
eso,
all
pero les
success
deseo
in
mucho
your future
éxito en
endeavors
su
and your
futuro
continued
y que
education
continúen su
and to play
educación y
sports
jueguen
and to be
deportes
good
y que
students
sean
as
buenos
a wonderful
estudiantes.
attribute. We have a
Gran
great group of
atributo
students here
tan
from Hollywood
grupo
High who will be introduced later,
estudiantes que van a
and they
estar
would
aquí en el
also want to
Hollywood
cheer
también
Hollywood
que
High, cheer San Pedro High. Okay.
Okay, I'd like to now
me
ask
gustaría
Principal
pedir al
Walters to say a few
director
words.
Walters que diga unas palabras.
On behalf of the
Como
great
parte
community
de
of
la gran
San
comunidad
Pedro,
de
we'd
San
like to
Pedro,
thank
nos
the City
saluda a los
Council once again for
reconciliadores otra
inviting
vez
us
más
back
para
to share
invitarnos
this
otra vez
honor
para
with the
compartir
entire
escenario con
city of
toda la
Los
ciudad de Los
Angeles.
Ángeles.
Thanks to the
Muchas gracias por la
Councilwoman
concejal
Janice Hahn for
Janice Hahn
arranging this for
por
us,
hacer
and for
arreglar
Coach
esto para nosotros,
Dobra
por el
and
coach
the
Dobra
Power
y por
Pack
el
San Pedro
Power
High
Pack de San
School
Pedro High School.
girls softball champions for the
equipo de
fourth
softball
year
por
in a
el
row.
cuarto
Thank you,
año.
everybody.
Gracias a todos.
Okay, and I'd like for the girls to stick around for an item that we're going to hear
asunto que
about
vamos a ver
Title
acerca
IX, which
del
impacts
título nuevo que
every one of
impacta a
you. So
todos
stick
ustedes.
around,
Nos
and then we'll
quédense
go in
y
the
lo
back
vamos para
and
atrás.
take pictures.
Y tomamos otros.
Yes.
Are any of these
Algunos de estos
young women athletes headed to UCLA who
van a
also
UCLA que también
earned a softball
ganaron
championship?
campeonatos de
You
UCLA.
going to UCLA?
¿Sí saben UCLA?
Not yet.
Not yet. The juniors and the
Los
sophomores.
juniors.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Hahn.
Gracias.
This, I believe, concludes
Con esto concluye la
presentations for today's
presentación para la
agenda.
agenda de hoy.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Por favor, hacer la
Brinson,
lista.
Galante,
Brinson,
Garcetti,
Galante,
Gruel,
Garza.
Han, Holden, Labange, Mizikowski, Pacheco, Parks, Perry, Reyes, Weiss, San Padilla, 13 members present, a quorum, Mr. President.
Thank you very much. First order of
Por
business.
orden
please.
de negocios.
Approval of the minutes.
Aprobación de los minutos, señor García, señor Gómez.
Commendatory resolutions
Resoluciones
for approval.
comendatorias para
Ms. Perry
aprobación.
moves
Señor
and
Pérez,
Mr. Holden seconds. And before proceeding
Y antes
to
de
the items
proceder al
appearing on
asunto
today's
aprendido en la
agenda,
agenda de hoy,
now that the crowd has been
es
seated,
decir, se ha
let me
sentado,
recognize
déjame
Councilmember
reconocer al
Garcetti.
concejal Garcete.
Thank you, Mr.
Gracias,
President. Just
presidente.
briefly, I know
Nomás
they've
por
been
referir
cited
que
by
están
Mr.
muchos
Labange
por
and a number of us
Labange,
have
por el nombre de
spoken,
nosotros hemos
but I'm wondering if I could ask all the
Quiero pedir a
Hollywood High
todos los
seniors to stand up and be recognized and to be on camera as
Está en
well
la cámara también.
tonight on Channel
Hoy en
35.
la Canal
Welcome to City
36
Hall
vienes
Chambers,
al
and if you can
concilio
all
de
please
6 y
stand
tú
up
puedes
for
pararse
recognition.
para el reconocimiento.
Thank you very much, Mr.
Muchas
President.
gracias,
Mr.
presidente.
Garcetti,
Señor
Mr.
Garcete,
Standing, and we ask you to lead us in
los
the
que
Pledge
nos
of
llevan
Allegiance.
If you all please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Yeah, Ashley was going to.
I will defer to Ashley, the captain of our softball team, to do it. Since the pressure is building. Ashley, please.
Okay. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Ashley. Madam Clerk, next item, please.
Before beginning the regular agenda, Mr. President, there is an item to continue.
Hay un
Item
asunto
number
para continuar,
2,
asunto número 2.
applicant requests
El
continuance to
applicante
September
pidió para
20th.
septiembre 28.
Members request to continue
Dice
item
para
number
continuar
2
asunto 2.
to September
I'm sorry, June
June
20th.
20th. Sorry about that. Seeing no objection,
Si no hay
item 2
objeciones,
is
el asunto
continued.
está continuado.
There are
Hay
two
dos
confirmations of city
confirmaciones de
officials
los
on
oficiales de
the
la ciudad en la
agenda. Item
agenda.
number
El
3 is
asunto 3 es
confirmation, Ms. Paula
confirmación de
Holt
la
to the
señora Paula
Cultural
Holt.
Affairs Commission. Public hearing has been held in committee.
Are items 3
Cosas
and 4
culturales
relative
3
to
y
the same
4
commission?
para la
No, they are not.
comisión.
They're not. Okay, then let's take item 3 first.
Vamos a
Ms.
mostrar
Holt,
el 3.
she can come forward at this time.
Puede venir para adelante.
Public hearing has been held.
Y
Members
así su
have a
comité
committee
tenemos un
report
reporte
recommending,
comité recomendando
confirmation.
confirmación.
Members wishing to be
Miembros que
heard
deseen ser oídos.
The consideration of Ms. Holt.
Consideración de la señora Hall.
Seeing none, Madam
La señora
Clerk,
William,
let's
por
open
favor,
the
en la
roll.
lista.
before we close the
Antes de
roll,
cerrar la
we
lista,
recognize
déjame
Mr.
reconocer al
Reyes.
señor Reyes.
Thank you, Council President.
Al señor presidente.
First, I want to thank you for
Quiero dar las
your
gracias por su
volunteer work
trabajo
or
voluntario,
commitment to the city.
por su dedicación a la ciudad. y privilegio.
One of the questions I had
Una
was
pregunta yo tenía esto,
pertinent more to the rest of the
acerca
commission
del resto.
makeup. But I want to get a better feeling for
La
your
comisión tiene
understanding
los
of the different parts
sentimientos de
of the
las
city.
diferentes partes de la ciudad.
Your familiarity
La
with
familiaridad
neighborhoods that
con
reflect
vecindarios que
the
reflejan
kinds of environments that
las
I
clases de
represent in
ambientes que
District
yo
1.
represento en Distrito
We
1.
have high population
Tenemos
densities.
densidades
We have
grandes
minimal
y tenemos un mínimo
recreational
de
opportunities.
oportunidades de recreación.
To give you
Me
a
puede dar
sense
su
of
sentido de
how you could be
cómo es que
looking
usted
at
puede estar viendo
areas like that.
áreas
Well,
así.
Councilman, I
Bueno,
currently live in
concejal,
the
yo
5th
ahorita vivo en
district,
el
but
quinto
I
distrito,
was
pero
born and raised in
yo
Los
nací en
Angeles.
Los
I've raised two
Ángeles, yo
children
crecí
on
dos
the east
hijos
side,
en
the
el lado
west
oeste,
side,
en el
the
oeste,
valley.
en el
I went
valle.
to UCLA
Yo
for
fui a UCLA
undergraduate work,
para
to
buen
USC
graduado,
for graduate work.
para
I'm no
yo
stranger
no
to
soy
the
una
breadth
extraña
and
con el pan
diversity
y la
of the city of
diversidad de la
Los
ciudad de Los
Angeles.
Ángeles.
I certainly will
Yo
bring as
ciertamente
much
voy a
breadth
traer
as I
tanto
can
pan
from the
como
place I
pueda
sit
del
in
lugar
right
donde
now.
estoy
But I do
sentado yo, pero
understand
yo
the issue of
entiendo la
diversity
cuestión de diversidad
and the need
y
for
la necesidad por
representation in a broader
representación
sense.
en
I certainly do
sentido
not see
más
myself as
amplio. Yo no me veo
representing the 5th
representando
district.
el quinto distrito.
I have development projects
Yo
in which
tengo
they pay
proyectos donde pagan
1% art fee.
1% de
Yes.
And
costos de arte.
it's hard
Y es
for me
difícil
to
para
get
mí agarrar
the department
al departamento
to look at how we
que vea cómo es
improve
que mejoramos.
and enhance those environments
Y
where these
mejoramos
developments
los
are
medio
occurring.
ambientes cuando están ocurriendo en ese ambiente.
What I find out is that
Lo que he
if
encontrado
a
es
certain
cierto
project isn't promoted,
proyectos no está
the
promovido.
funds go into
El fondo central,
a fund that goes citywide,
fondo que va
citywide
por toda la
programming.
ciudad.
How we apply those
¿Cómo
funds
aplicamos esos
in areas
fondos en
that don't
áreas
have
que no
school
tienen
facilities, that don't have
lugares de
recreation
escuelas
centers?
que no tienen centros de recreación?
How would you go about
¿Cómo
looking
iría
at that
usted
issue?
viendo esa cuestión?
Well, as the soon-to-be newest
Pronto
member
va a
of
ser
this
el
commission, and as I'm sure you
miembro de
know,
la
the
comisión,
commission
como sabe
serves in
usted,
an
la comisión
advisory
sirve
capacity
en la
to
capacidad de
the
consejería
department.
para el departamento.
So I think
Entonces yo
to a
creo
great
que en
degree,
gran
we
grado
look to the
nosotros
department to
vemos al
give us
departamento
leadership,
para darnos
and the
liderazgo
commission
y la
approves the
comisión
artistic
aprueba
merit of
el
those
mérito artístico de
projects.
esos proyectos.
I'm not sure
Yo no estoy
yet.
seguro todavía.
I think I'm too
Yo
new
creo
to
que
be
soy muy nuevo
making
para
policy
hacer
at this
políticas en
point.
este
I
punto.
certainly see what it
Ciertamente
is
yo veo
you're
lo que está
aiming
usted
for, and I
llegando
certainly
y
agree
ciertamente
with
estoy
the
de
intention
acuerdo
of
con
what
la
you're
intención
saying.
de lo
How
que está
that's
diciendo,
implemented,
cómo eso es
I'd have to be on the job a little
Tendría que
longer
usted
before I
trabajar un poco
led
más
that
antes de
parade.
que llevara ese
Well,
desfile.
I'm sorry you're the one that I
Lo
needed to
siento
ask
que
this
necesita
question.
hacer
I didn't mean to
preguntas,
put you on the
pero no
spot.
quise poner
But it is a concern of
pero
mine.
es una
No,
preocupación.
I'm glad to hear
Yo
that.
estoy
And
feliz en
I'd
oír
like to
eso.
see how we
Me
can
gustaría
approach
cómo
those
es
issues
llegar a esos
in a
cuestiones
diplomatic way,
en
but
una manera
understanding
diplomática para entender
how we even
cómo
playing
es
field for the
como
whole city.
nivelamos
You know,
para
and
toda
this
la
goes to
ciudad.
the
Y esto
eastern
va
part of
a
the
la
San
parte
Fernando
del
Valley,
Valle de San
as much as
Fernando,
it
también
applies
cómo
to
se
the poorer
aplica
parts of
las
Wilmington,
partes de
and the
Wilmington
east side,
y al
northeast,
este y
and
noreste.
South Los Angeles.
Y
So,
soy de Los Ángeles,
again,
entonces otra vez.
because those areas
Porque
that are
esas
not
áreas que
deemed
no
desirable
están
by
puestas
many
deseables por
investors,
muchos
we don't have
inversionistas,
the
no
opportunity to
tenemos la
generate these
oportunidad de
resources. So
generar
how we deal with that is going to be, I
dineros,
think,
entonces
crucial.
yo creo que va a ser crucial esto.
I know that there is
Yo
a
sé que hay
general master plan
un
for
plan
the art
maestro
development of
para
the
el
city of Los
desarrollo de arte
Angeles,
de la ciudad de Los
and
Ángeles.
it seems to
Y
me that
parece que
apparently it's
parece
quite out of
aparentemente
date.
están muy
And I
fuera de
think one of the
fecha.
things
Entonces una
that
de las
can be
cosas que pueden
addressed
ser
is
llevarse
looking at the
es
city of
ver a la
Los
ciudad de
Angeles
Los
as
Ángeles
an
como
entity, as an
entidad,
entirety,
como una
and
entidad,
making sure
y
that the
estar seguro
kind
de que la
of
clase
neglect that you're discussing
esta
does not
discusión
get
no se
codified. So
codificado.
I think that would
Entonces yo
probably
creo
be
que
the
eso
best
sería
thing, is to come
probablemente la
up with
mejor
really a
cosa
master plan so that the city
para que la ciudad
develops in a way that is not
manera
slipshod, but is
que no
actually
esté
overseen.
It's curving this tale of two
está
cities.
cubriendo
It's
esta
really
ciudad
one
de
of the
las
goals I have.
ciudades, es la
You know,
meta
as we
que
go
yo
through
tengo
these
que pasemos
processes and
por
look at
estos
our resources.
procesamientos.
I know we're out of time, but
Estoy corriendo fuera de tiempo,
can I ask the
pero
CLA
puedo
one
pedir
question
una
in terms
pregunta
of the
en
makeup?
términos
Then I get a
de
report
ese
on
reporte.
who is represented
¿Quién
in
está
this commission.
representando
Can
la
I ask that
comisión?
question
¿Puedo
of
hacer esta
CLA?
pregunta?
Absolutely.
Claro,
Either the clerk or the CLA can answer that question.
puedo contestar.
Indulge me for a minute. Thank the CLA at the table, or someone who would have that
O alguien que
information.
tenga esta información.
Mr. CLA, Mr. Clerk,
CLA,
either one of you ready to answer that question?
¿Puede contestar esa pregunta?
Ron? Does the clerk have that information? I just need to know who makes up the commission. I didn't get that report that gives you a
que le da
description of where they come
descripción
from.
de dónde vienen.
Can get
Will you
back
get
to you.
that?
¿Me pueden dar
And
eso?
it's more a question for my
Es una
colleagues
pregunta
to
para
hear.
mis colegas que oigan.
And again, it's how we are making a decision at that level that affects how we're implementing our policies. So Ms. Holt is not alone in looking at these issues, and that's the main reason why I asked the question.
Thank you very much. Mr. Labange.
Ms. Holt, thank you for your service to the people of Los Angeles and this important role of our Cultural Affairs Commission. In the 4th District, we have the core of the county's art programs on the museum, on Wilshire Boulevard, also the Peterson Museum, also our very own Craft and Folk Art, which is the only city's museum. And as we then meander through Hollywood with all the little theaters that both Mr. Garcetti and I share, and then the big theaters which he has in Hollywood, we move out to NoHo in the burgeoning art district there. I just wanted to make you aware and offer at any time, or your commissioners would like a running tour of the district just to see to connect, because as Nicole Kidman said at the Academy Awards this year, she said art is important, and I just wanted to offer that to you as a commissioner, and thank you for your service. We have to find ways to try to get more funds to you in this pressing times as we set our priorities, but I just wanted to make that offer and also congratulate you on your service to the people of Los Angeles, the commissioner on the Cultural Affairs Commission. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Council, and I look forward to the opportunity of serving the city.
Mr. Weiss.
Thank you, Mr. President. Ms. Holt, I want to tell you that hope you've enjoyed your confirmation here at Council. I do think my friend Mr. Reyes has a very good point that he is trying to make, and I think it's one that I'm sure you share, and I know all of us on this council share, which is that the leadership of this city at every level ought to reflect the nature of this city at all other levels. And that's what Mr. Reyes is talking about, and I wholeheartedly agree with him. Obviously, you are here as someone who wants to serve the people of this city, who wants to serve the families and the kids of this city. And I know you're going to do an extraordinary job, and I look forward to your years of service on this commission, as do all of my colleagues. At the same time, all of us are going to join with Mr. Reyes in making sure that we have city leadership structures that adequately and accurately reflect the rich diversity of the city of Los Angeles. That's the separate point that he's making along a separate track. I'm going to vote for your confirmation. I urge my colleagues to do that as well, and I very much look forward to working with you over the next several years. Thanks for coming. Congratulations.
Thank you, Council.
Thank you, Mr. Weiss. Mr. Reyes.
Yes, again, Ms. Holt, thank you very much for your good work. I didn't impose on you. I did ask this question, but just for my colleagues, our representation of the commission, I don't need to name names. They come from Granada Hills, Beverly Crest, Brentwood, Silver Lake, Toluca Lake, Brentwood, Century City.
Granada Hills is very appropriate, Mr. Reyes.
But I'm not thinking it's appropriate or not. It's more of where's South Los Angeles? Where's East Los Angeles? Where's Northeast? You know what I mean? Let's look at it.
Vamos a ver eso. Muchas gracias.
Muchas
Muchas gracias, Reyes.
Other members wishing to be
Otros
heard on
miembros que
this
desean
item?
decir en este asunto.
Seeing none.
Dígase
Madam
ninguno.
Clerk, please
Va a
open
abrirse
the
la
roll on
lista. Cierre
confirmation.
confirmación.
Please close the roll.
Cierre la
and
lista y
tabulate the
tábulese
vote.
el voto.
13 ayes.
13 sí.
Congratulations. and thank you for your
Felicitaciones. Muchas
service
gracias
to
por
the city.
servicio a la ciudad.
Thank you very much.
Muchas gracias.
Forthwith, please.
Para adelante, por favor.
Next item.
Item number 4 is confirmation of Ms. Erica Kim to the Human Relations Commission. A committee report has been
Reporte
submitted.
comité se sometió.
Ms. Kim is with
Señora
us
Kim
as
está con
well.
nosotros también.
And we do have a
Y
committee
tenemos un
report,
reporte comité del
confirmation.
comité de confirmación.
Members wishing to be
Miembros que
heard
deseen ser
on item
oídos en el
number 4.
asunto número 4.
Seeing none.
Dígase
Madam
ninguno.
Clerk, please
Va a
open
abrirse
the
la
roll on
lista.
confirmation.
Confirmación.
Please close the roll.
Cierre la
and
lista y
tabulate
tábulese
the
el
vote.
voto.
13 ayes.
13 sí.
Congratulations. You are
Felicitaciones, está
confirmed as well.
Muchas gracias.
And the councilman is
Felicitaciones.
there
El
to
concejal está ahí para
congratulate you.
felicitarla.
Forthwith, please. And item
Adelante,
number
por
4.
favor, en el asunto número 4.
Next item.
Next item, Mr. President, item number 1 is an item notice for public hearing. It's a confirmation of street lighting assessment in Council District 1.
And I do not have a request from members of the public to address the council on this item. We shall deem the public
El
hearing
público
open
no
and
para
closed.
hablar en esto. Está abierto, la audiencia pública está abierta. Se regulan quién llama los asuntos muy especial. Me parece bueno. Ábrese la lista.
Please close the
Cierre la
roll
lista.
and tabulate
Ábrese
the
el
vote.
voto.
13 ayes.
13 sí.
That is approved.
Está aprobado.
Next item, please.
Próximo
Items
asunto,
for which
asuntos
public
sobre la
hearings
audiencia
have been held,
pública se hicieron
items 5 through
asuntos
20.
5 al 20.
On item
En
number
asunto
17, there are,
17
and 20, there are two
hay
reports on the
dos
file.
reportes
Item
en
number
archivo, asunto
17,
17.
the council,
El concejal
there's a recommendation to
una
adopt the
recomendación para
ITGS
adoptar el
committee report.
comité report.
And on item number
Y el
20,
asunto
council
20, el
may adopt
concejal
both in as
puede
much as
votar
both
los dos,
concur.
con los dos
Members,
concurren.
items 5
Otros
through 20 are now
5 al
before
20
us,
están
including
transferos
recommendations on items
recomendaciones
17 and
17 y
20.
20.
Public hearings have been
Esa
held in
publicidad se
committee,
hicieron
so
en el
motion
comité,
from the
entonces
floor will
moción
be
del
required
piso
to
se
reopen
requería
the
para
public
abrir el
hearings.
ese
I'm
public
going to
hearing. Yo
go
voy a
clockwise. Mr.
ocurrir
Garcetti.
señor Garceta.
Item 11,
11.
substitute motion has been
Una moción
circulated. Is there any
substituta se
for
circula en
discussion?
nación de discusión.
If not, without objection,
Yo
we'll
sirvo que
consider item
vamos a
11.
cancelar el
The
asunto.
substitute on item
El
11.
sustituto número
Ms.
11.
Hahn.
Señora Han.
Mr. President, I'd like to
Señor Presidente, me
call
gustaría llamar
item
al
16
16
special, and I'd
especial y
also like to
también me
request that
gustaría
we
que
take that out of
tomamos
order
ese
so
fuera de orden para
that
que
our girls
nuestras
can get back to
muchachas
school,
puedan
which I'm
regresar a
sure
la
they're
escuela
dying
que
to
están
do.
muriéndose de regreso.
Item 16 is called
Asunto
special by Ms.
17 se
Hahn.
para la señora
Mr.
Han.
Holden.
El 18.
Item 18 is called
17
special by
es
Mr.
especial,
Holden.
señor
Mr.
Holden,
Labange.
señor Labange.
Number 20, please.
Item 20 called special by Mr. Labange. Mr. Weiss.
Señor Weiss, 5.
Item 5 called special
5
by
llama
Mr.
especial,
Weiss.
señor Weiss.
Mr. Zine.
Señor Sen.
I'd like to
Me
move the
gustaría mover el
ITGS report on number
reporte
17.
número 17.
Okay. Any other specials?
¿Algún otro especial?
Any other specials?
¿Algún
Seeing
otro
none,
especial?
Madam Clerk, please open
Póngase
the
la
roll
lista.
on the balance of the
El
items
balance de los asuntos.
and the ITGS report and item
Sí,
17.
el número 17.
Please close the roll
Cierre la
and
lista.
tabulate the
Tabúlese el
vote.
voto.
13 ayes.
13 sí.
Those are
Están
approved.
aprobados.
Next item, please.
Próximo asunto, por favor.
Mr. President,
Señor
on
Presidente,
item number
el asunto
21, that is the
21
sale
es
of bonds, and
una
the
venta de
CAO
bonos y el CEDAW
bonds bids were opened this
se
morning,
abrieron
and
esta
the CAO
mañana
took
y el
bids
CEDAW
on
tomó apuestas en
$2,701,330,000 of wastewater refunding bonds. Winning bidder was Goldman Sachs and Company at a true interest cost of 3.895248%.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Colleagues, we have item 21 and the CAO report before
El
us.
reporte se leo.
Is there any
¿Hay alguna
discussion?
discusión?
Item 21.
Asunto 21.
Mr. Garcetti?
Señor Garceta.
Okay. Members, item
¿Qué fue el
21.
asunto 21?
Mr. Reyes?
Señor Reyes.
Item number 19.
No,
Asunto
we're on item 21 at this
Estamos en
time.
el 21.
Madam Clerk, please open the roll on
Establece la
item
lista.
21.
Asunto 21.
Please close the roll and
Establece la
tabulate
lista.
the vote.
Establece el voto.
13 ayes.
13 sí.
That is approved.
Está aprobado.
Forthwith, please.
Adelante, por favor.
Mr. Garcetti?
Señor Garceta.
Thank you, Mr. President. Can we reconsider
Podemos
item number
reconsiderar
13
asunto
to add
13
an
para
amendment to
añadir el
that?
amendamiento a
Okay,
eso.
members, we have a motion for
Tiene una moción para
reconsideration of item
considerar el
13.
asunto 13.
Madam Clerk, please open the
Establece la
roll.
lista.
Please close
Cierre
the
la
roll
lista.
and tabulate
Establece
the
el
vote.
voto.
13 ayes.
13 sí.
Item 13 is
Asunto 13
reconsidered.
está
Is this technical in nature, Mr. Garcetti, or should we call it special?
Es sustancial,
But
mayor.
it's without objection from
Es
the
sin
mover.
objeción de
Just colleagues,
Nada más,
I think a lot
colegas,
of us are
creo que muchos
experiencing
hemos
with our neighborhood
experimentado con
councils. I
las
just
posiciones del vecindario.
had
Tuve
my bi-monthly meeting with all my neighborhood
junta
councils yesterday, and one thing that seems to be
y una cosa
recurring
para estar
is that it's incredibly difficult for the neighborhood councils to actually spend the money that we budgeted for them. The more cynical folks are saying, well, this is just going to keep money in the bank, and then folks are going to come and sweep that out saying, see, they couldn't spend the money. There are projects out there in the neighborhoods, there are neighborhood councils that want to set up offices and other things, but they are having such a difficult time spending that money out. But I would like to amend this so we can get the report back, and I talked with Ms. Hahn about this, and she's in full agreement as well, that we really look at ways of streamlining the spending out of neighborhood councils' own money that's been budgeted for them. We look at alternative ways that perhaps bypass the usual city process to actually get that money out. Even the value-added cards, which were a great idea, there's been some hitches with, but for a lot of the projects which aren't about just buying staples or paper, we have to empower those neighborhood councils to allow them to function bodies with volunteer citizens that are stepping up to be a part of these neighborhood councils. If they can't spend out the money that we budgeted them, they are doomed for failure. So I'd like to amend that to include that and make that a strong part of the report back.
Thank you, Mr. Garcetti. I have Ms. Hahn next on the queue. I'll recognize you. If other members push their buttons, then we'll call this matter special. Ms. Hahn.
Mr. President, thank you. And Mr. Garcetti, I think that's fine. This is actually the right place for you to
para
bring
que usted
that
traiga
up.
eso.
What this is,
Lo
colleagues,
que
we heard this in
estos
my
colegas
committee, and
vemos
this
en
really
comité
just
de veras nomás
instructs Greg Nelson, the general
aquí
manager of
el
the
gerente general
department,
del
to
departamento
develop sort of a boilerplate survey that can go out to all the neighborhood councils and decide if their needs are being met, if there's certain services from other city departments that either are working or not working. As we know, all neighborhood councils are different, and one size does not fit all, but I'm thinking if we do get something back that talks about similar needs either not being met or similar problems that are across all neighborhood councils, this is a good time for us then to step up to the plate and figure out how we can fix that. So this is the perfect time. What we'll do is we'll just instruct Greg to make sure that in that survey he specifically has a section on how they're being able to spend their money, and I think we'll get back some very valuable information. Thank you for thinking of that.
Thank you, Mr. Garcetti. Thank you, Ms. Hahn. Members, without objection, will consider item 13 as amended. Madam Clerk, please open the roll. Please close the roll and tabulate the vote.
12 ayes, 1 no.
Item 13 as amended is approved. Next item, please. Mr. Labange.
Items for which public hearings have not been held, items 22 through 27.
Items 23 to 27, and 4, we do have cards on item 24. Call that special. On the balance of the items, I do not have requests from members of the public to address the council, satisfying the public hearings. Members wishing to call any specials, items 23 to 27. Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please open the roll on the balance of the items. Please close the roll and tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
Those are approved.
On the supplemental agenda, item number 28 was placeholder for the mayor's veto message that has not been received yet. Does council wish to continue that matter to tomorrow?
Yes, item 28, since we have not received a veto action by the mayor, so we continue without objection. Mr. Reyes.
Señor Presidente,
Recall
podemos
item
llamar asunto
number
19.
9, reconsider
Reconsiderar
item number
asunto
19.
19.
To call it special.
Llamarlo especial.
Members, motion for
Miembros,
the
moción para
consideration of item
consideración del
19.
asunto 19.
Madam Clerk, please
Ahora
open
verse
the
la
roll.
lista.
Please close
Quieres
the
la
roll
lista,
and
ahora
tabulate
verse
the
el
vote.
voto.
13 ayes.
13 sí.
That is approved.
Está
Item
aprobado
19
el
is
asunto 19 está
reconsidered and
reconsiderado
called
y se
special
llama
by Mr.
especial por el
Reyes.
señor Reyes.
Next item, please.
Próximo asunto.
On the supplemental page, item number 29 is an item for which public hearing has not been held.
Okay.
¿Está bien?
Call this item
¿Quién
special.
vamos a llamar este especial?
Item number 5, now before us,
Frente a nosotros.
council calls
Concejal
forward
llama para adelante
Francis
a
Park,
Francis Park,
followed by Lucinda
seguida por la
Sterrett,
Lucinda Sterrett,
Richard Gardner,
Richard Gardner,
Diana Chacon,
Diana Chacon,
and other speakers
y
to
otros
follow.
audios que van
You
a
can all
seguir.
come forward at this
Si pueden
time.
venir para adelante todos,
You're right. I'm sorry, I've just been reminded we
voy a
want to take
recordar
item
que queremos
16
el asunto
first.
16 primero.
Ms. Hahn, did you wish to
Si
speak
ahora
first?
quiere
or the
hablar
public?
primero,
No, I would like to reopen,
Quiere
or we
abrir
have speaker cards, right?
la tarjeta.
I'd like to hear from the public first.
quiero ir al público
Okay, item
primero.
16.
Asunto 16,
Now before us.
enfrente a nosotros.
Stephanie
Stephanie
Spikas, I think,
Spikas, creo.
Jenny Hatfield,
Jenna Hatfield,
Jan Tucker,
Jan
and
Tucker
Victoria
y
King.
Victoria King.
Would you all please come
Si
forward?
vengan para adelante, por favor.
Item 16
Asunto
is
16
before us at this
está
time.
entre nosotros.
Dear council members, ladies and gentlemen,
Damas y caballeros,
being a member of the
siendo
softball team
miembro
at
del
San
equipo
Pedro
de
High
softball
School,
del San
during
Pedro
the
High
last
School
4
durante
years,
los últimos
I
4
can
años,
unequivocally
yo
state that my
inequívocamente puedo decir
experience
que
as
mi
a varsity
experiencia como
athlete has
atleta de
been
varsidad ha sido
beneficial,
beneficiosa
rewarding, and unforgettable.
y inolvidable.
At all times,
En
this
todos
group
los
of
tiempos,
talented
ese
female
grupo de
athletes
gentes
have received both
talentosas han
academic,
recibido
emotional, and financial
emocional y académica
assistance from the
asistencia económica
school,
de la
the
escuela, de la
administration, the
administración,
faculty,
la
the
facultad,
community,
la
and our
comunidad y
families.
nuestras familias.
This support has been made
Estos
possible
soportes
by
han sido
caring and
posibles por
dedicated individuals
individuos
and through
dedicados
legislation
y por la
such as Title
dedicación
IX.
tales como
Title IX has
Título
created
9 ha creado
opportunities for female
oportunidades para
athletes in high
atletas
school and
mujeres
college, and it has
que dejen la
successfully
high school
furthered the
y el
development of
desarrollo
women's sports at
de
these
deportes
levels.
en estos niveles.
Personally, I will have the
Personalmente
good
yo voy a
fortune
tener
to
la buena
attend
suerte de
Indiana
asistir
State
a
University
Indiana State
on an
University
academic athletic scholarship,
una
and
beca
I'm
de
excited
ingeniería.
about
Estoy
having the
excitado
chance
por
to
tener
grow
la
and
chance de crecer y
prosper through
prosperar
academics and
por
softball.
residencia en softball.
Any weakening of Title IX would
El día de
jeopardize the
título 9
opportunity of the another young woman
la
as she
oportunidad de
pursues the
otra
same
joven
dream that I was
de
able
llegar a
to
los
fulfill
sueños
at
que yo
San
podía
Pedro
llenar
High
en la
School.
San Pedro High
So
School.
along with the Los
Entonces,
Angeles
pues,
City Council,
decirle de la
I,
sede,
Stephanie
yo,
Sky, wholeheartedly support this
soporto esta
resolution that
resolución
seeks to
que
ensure
se busca
equal
hacer
gender protection and higher
protección y
education.
educación más alta.
Good morning.
Buenos días, Victoria King, para la Comisión del Estatuto de las Mujeres. La Comisión soporta esta resolución por un número de razones, no por las cuales es su aportación igual que argumentos que deberían de estar suficientes por los todos de tractores, título 9 y educación más alta. Pero en adición a eso, se evidencia que el atletismo es la mitad del éxito para las mujeres y niñas. Aparte de las becas y el estado mental, física y mental, las oportunidades para el liderazgo. También hay estudios que enseñan que participación en atletismo es un muy buen factor de prevención de embarazos. Toda la evidencia enseña que atletas es una experiencia muy atlética para las jóvenes y las mujeres y soportamos esta resolución.
Thank you very much. I have
Muchas gracias.
cards still from Jimmy
Tarjetas de
Hatfield,
Jimmy
Ken
Hatfield,
Tucker,
Ken
and
Tucker
Pam Cook.
y Bangkok.
Good morning.
Buenos días.
As stated, my name
Como
is
se dijo,
Jenny
mi nombre es Jen
Hatfield. I'm
Hatfield y yo soy
co-president of the American
copresidente de la
Association
Asociación
of
Americana
University
de
Women,
Mujeres de
San
la
Fernando
Universidad del
Valley
Valle, San
Branch.
Fernando.
And I want to thank
Yo
you
quiero
for
dar
the
las gracias
invitation
por
to
la
speak before
invitación
the
para hablar
council
ante el
today
concilio hoy
in support of the
en
resolution
soporte de la
concerning
resolución
Title
por comisión
IX.
del título 9.
I not only represent the
Ahora no solo presento a
240
los
plus
240
members of
más
the San
miembros
Fernando
del Valle
Valley
de San
Branch,
Fernando,
but also
pero
convey the
también
support
nuestro
of the
soporte de los
26,000
26,000
AAUW members residing
AAW
in
residiendo en
California, who
California,
represent
que
some
representan
150
algunos
statewide
150
branches.
ramas.
The stated mission
El
of
Estado Misión de
AAUW, which
AAW,
was
que fue
established in
establecida en
1881 by a handful
1821
of
por unos
college-educated
colegios de
women,
educación
is
mujeres,
to promote
para
educational
promover
equity for
igual
women
de
and
educación
girls,
para mujeres y
lifelong
niñas,
education,
educación de toda la
and
vida
positive societal
y sus
change.
cambios sociales
We view Title
positivos.
IX, a
Nosotros vemos
provision
el
of the
título de una
Education
provisión de la
Amendments
educación
Act of
actualmente en
1972,
1972
as crucial
como
to that
crucial
mission,
para esta misión.
and therefore
Y por
strongly
eso
oppose any
fuertemente nos
weakening
ponemos
of
a
its
la
tenets
debilición de sus
and
inquilinos.
advocate vigorously for
Vamos
its
vigorosamente
enhanced
por su
enforcement.
aumento de esfuerzo.
While the resolution
Entre la
before you
resolución
basically
usted nomás
refers to the
refiere
athletic
a la
opportunities
oportunidad
afforded under
atlética.
Title
Su
IX, this
título
law,
nuevo,
as
esta
you
ley,
know,
como
is
se
much
sabe,
broader
es
in
más
scope
ancho.
than sports
En
equity.
portos igualdad.
Athletics is only one
Atletismo
area
nomás es un
contained
área
in the
contenida en la
legislation.
legislación.
Other sections
Otras
address
secciones
access
llevan
to higher
acceso a la
education,
educación más alta,
career
la educación
education,
de carrera,
employment,
empleo,
learning environment,
medio ambiente,
math and
mapa y
science,
ciencias,
sexual harassment, standardized
acoso
testing,
sexual,
technology, and treatment
tecnología y
of pregnant and
tratamiento
parenting students.
de estudiantes de
The purpose of
embarazos.
Title IX
El
is to
propósito del título
eliminate
es eliminar la
discrimination on the
discriminación
basis
en las
of
bases de
sex
sexo.
in any
En
education
cualquier
program
programa de
or
educación o
activity
actividad
receiving federal
recibiendo
financial assistance.
asistencia
It
federal.
was seen as a
Fue vista
logical
como
extension
una
of the
extensión
Civil Rights
cerca
Act of
del Acto Civil
1964,
del
which focused
1964
on
que enfoca en la
discrimination
discriminación
based on
basada
ethnicity.
en ética.
AAUW has joined with
AAW se
women
opuesto
and
con las
men
mujeres
across the country
por
to
todo el
support
país para
Title
soportar el
IX
título
and to
9
promote the
y para
firm
promover
belief
la
that there
creencia
should be no
firme de que no
barriers to
debe haber
full
barreras para
participation in
participación completa en la
education
educación,
or the
para el
workplace
trabajo,
on the basis
en los
of
bases
gender,
de
race, creed, age,
herencia, edad,
sexual orientation,
orientación
natural
sexual,
origin,
original,
disability, or
disabilidad
class.
o
Although Title IX has broken down barriers to
barreras
opportunity
para
in
oportunidades
education
en
and
educación y
athletics,
atletismo,
equity for all has
igualdad para
not been
todos no ha
achieved.
sido llegada.
While male and
Entre
female
hombres y mujeres
participation in athletics
participación en
has steadily
atletismo
grown,
ha
female
crecido,
students
los estudiantes
continue to
mujeres han
lag in
continuado
participation opportunities, receipt of
recibir
scholarships,
esas becas
and
y
allocation of
alocaciones
operating and
y
recruitment budgets.
reclutamiento.
Contrary to what
Contrario a
Title
lo que el
IX's
título 9
adversaries
de
believe,
adversarios creen,
discrepancies in
discrepancias en
participation
su
rates are the
participación
results
son
of
los
continuing
resultados de
discrimination in
discriminación continua en
access to
acceso
equal
a
athletic
cualquier
opportunities.
oportunidades iguales en
As the
oportunidades.
National Coalition for Women
Coalición
and Girls in
Atlética Mujeres y
Education
Hombres
has
en
made
Educación ha
clear,
hecho
it
claro
is neither
que
logical
no es
nor
lógico
permissible
ni
to consider
permisible
a
para
lack of
considerar
interest
un
in college
falta
sport
de interés por
participation
obtención de
on the
colegios
part of
en
female
la parte de
athletes
atletas
when less
mujeres
than
cuando menos de
200,000 college
2,000
participation opportunities
colegio, oportunidades
for the
existen
2.7
para
million high
2.7
school girls
mujeres que
participating in
participan
sports.
en deportes. Sí, le puedo decir que concluya.
I'll cut to the chase.
Voy a cortar.
Title IX has
Título
made
9 ha
progress
hecho
in breaking
progreso
down
en
barriers
romper
to
barreras
opportunity
en
in
oportunidades de
education
educación
and athletics
en
over the
atletas
past
de
30
los últimos
years.
30 años.
However, equity
Pero
for all
equidad
has
para
not been
todos no ha
achieved.
sido llegada.
Diligence is needed
Diligencia
now
es
to
necesaria para
protect and
proteger
advance
y
the
avanzar el
progress we
progreso
have
que
made
hemos
since
hecho desde
1972. And
1972.
AAUW applauds the
NAW aplaude al
Council for
Consejo
lending your
por su
support by way of
soporte
this
por la manera de esta
resolution to this
resolución
landmark
para
law.
esta
Thank
ley.
you,
Gracias.
and I do have some
Y
copies.
tengo unas copias si él quiere estar interesado. Gracias. Al sargento de colecciones.
Jan Tucker, followed by
Jan
Pam
Tucker,
Cook.
seguida por Pam Cook.
Jim Tucker
John Tucker representa el Valle de San Fernando Noreste, chapter de la Organización para las Mujeres. Yo me refiero a todos consideración de la creación escrita que nosotros sometimos, y especialmente a las estadísticas. Antes de pasar el título 9 de 1972, participación en atletismo nacionalmente por mujeres en el nivel de secundaria era menos de 8%. En un año desde que pasó, ese porcentaje se levantó por 10%. Hoy se queda más cerca del 42%. Pero el presidente Bush está tratando de quitar el título no por su discriminación a determinado, pero porque continúa existiendo. Entre los obreros del chapter del Valle de San Fernando Noreste recibe título 9 quejas en bases constantes. Hemos tenido título 9 quejas 2 veces en el último mes. Nos hemos bien de la USD en las escuelas. El viernes por noche aprendimos que un equipo de softball, coach de cierta campo, había protestado por 2 años la inequidad entre la cancha de hombres y la cancha de mujeres. Las mujeres se ganan y protestan por exclutación en eso hacia de ignorar. Nosotros tenemos título nuevo y quejas para el oficial de servicios de Departamento de Educación para continuar estando un mecanismo para llegar a estas quejas. Y yo quería a todos los consejos que el título 9 no nomás solo es una cuestión de deportes, no es una cuestión de solución de sexo. El título 9 se lleva a todas las cuestiones de discriminación en educación más alta y instituciones federalmente fundadas y afecta a los dos raciales y género. Como van a ver en esa declaración, también nos tenemos que llevar a las dos cuestiones acerca del contexto del deporte. Muchas gracias.
Thank you.
Good morning, Mr. President and council members. My name is Pam Cook, and actually, I'm representing myself here today, even though I do represent many organizations around the city. And actually, I'd like to start by directing my comments to the young women from San Pedro, and that is, you have to fight for this. You have to fight every day for this. Keep fighting for equal opportunities in your education and in sports, because if you don't fight, it will be lost. I actually was playing sports during the 70s, and when we did not have equal opportunities as the men's teams, when we got the kind of hand-me-down uniforms, and we were playing on the secondary fields, by the time I got to college, things were a little better, but they still were not what they are today. As we hit about around the time of the 80s, when things started to improve. We can never go back, ladies and gentlemen. If we do not make sure that Title IX remains law, we will go back into the inequity situation. And young women need these opportunities. And I can assure you, young women, that because I played softball in college, when I applied to law school, I got a little bit more of a favorable look because they knew that I was looking to achieve. Because I played softball and in college, when I then put it down on my resume as I applied for my first job as an attorney, my male employer looked at that and said, you can do it. And I know that you can actually hang in there. And it was a means of my saying to him that I actually do achieve and I reach a certain level of achievement. So that's what Title IX does for all of us. It gives us a little bit of a leg up, and that's what it was intended to do. So I definitely support this measure and ask all young women and young men also, and all of the people of the city of Los Angeles, state of California, and of the entire United States to please support the continuation of all of the measures of Title IX. Thank you.
Thank you very much. This concludes public comment on item 16. Councilmember Hahn.
Concejal Hahn.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Presidente, colegas.
First of all, I want to
Primeramente quiero dar las
thank
gracias
everyone who
a todos
came
los que vinieron
here this morning
hoy
to
esta mañana
testify
para
on
testiguar como
behalf
parte de
of this issue.
esta
And as we've
cuestión.
heard this
Y como
morning,
soy esta mañana,
Title IX is
nuestro
currently
novio
being
ahorita está
challenged.
siendo
And the
peleada
biggest
y
argument
un aumento
for
más grande
tweaking or
para
weakening
debilitándole
Title IX
el
is
título
that it
una vez
has
que
led to
ha
less
llevado a menos
opportunity for
oportunidades
men
para
in
los hombres
sports.
en deportes.
Instead of
En vez de
acknowledging the
reconocer
continued
la
discrimination
discriminación
that girls and
continua que
women
las
face in
mujeres
obtaining
tienen
equal athletic
en
opportunity,
oportunidades atléticas
the
y
President's Commission on
Siendo presidente
Opportunity
en
in
la oportunidad,
Athletics has
el
come out
atletismo
with
ha venido con
recommendations
recomendaciones.
that weaken Title IX. And as we all know,
Y como todos
while we have
sabemos,
made
mientras
great
se ha hecho
strides, women
los
are
pasos,
still
las mujeres
not
todavía
receiving
no
equal
están recibiendo
opportunities in
oportunidad igual
sports or in
en deportes o en
education.
educación.
We have come a long
Y hemos
way.
venido mucho
When I was in
tiempo.
high
Cuando yo
school,
estaba en high school,
I was named
yo fui
Athlete
nombrado
of the Year.
atleta del año.
But that was in
Pero eso fue en
1970.
1970.
And I too
Y yo
played
también
on the
jugué
secondary
en
fields.
en
And
las
I
canchas
played
secundarias y jugué
basketball on
básquetbol
courts that sometimes did
varios
not
que
have
no
nets
creo que tenían
in the hoops. And
nets.
we certainly
Y
got much
ciertamente
less
teníamos menos
advantage at my high
ventaja
school.
en
In
mi
fact, I
escuela. En
wasn't
eso yo
even
ni siquiera
eligible
estaba
to
elegible
receive a
para
letter,
recibir una
as
carta,
all the boys
como todos los
participating in
hombres que
sports were
participan en
given
deportes
at
que
the
se
end
les
of the
debe al final
season.
de la temporada.
But while things are
Pero mientras han
changing,
cambiado,
this is not the
esto no
time
es
to
el
weaken
tiempo
Title
para
IX. This is not the time to change it.
para debilitar las decisiones, no es tiempo para
Even with Title
cambiar.
IX,
Con el
girls and
título
women
no, las
are
mujeres y
still
hombres todavía
facing
están viendo
discrimination.
discriminación.
Let me just read you some things.
Déjame
In
leer algunas cosas. En
1999, 2000, female
2000,
students
mujeres,
represented about 54% of the student body, yet only 23% of all NCAA Division colleges provided women with athletic opportunities within 5 percentage points of female enrollment, which is a requirement of Title IX. The girls' softball fields at most high schools do not even come close to comparing with facilities provided for boys' baseball. Women's college teams are often not allowed to attend the same conferences or given the same travel expenses as men teams often are. Boys' high school sports are scheduled so that they do not compete during the same season. For example, basketball and soccer in different seasons. The girls' sports usually overlap, forcing girls to choose which sport they want to participate in. Title IX is about equality for women. It is not necessary for boys to lose something, as some may argue. The President's Commission attacked Title IX because men's wrestling teams were arguing that they were cut because of Title IX rules. But every year there are millions of dollars spent pampering college football teams. Free meals, snacks, first-class hotel accommodations, and million-dollar coaches. Yet Title IX is being blamed for wrestling programs being cut. Instead, schools need to learn about business and redistributing funds. The President's Commission has forwarded its recommendation to Education Secretary Rod Page, who will decide whether to propose changes to Title IX. And my motion calls for us colleagues as a city, as the second largest city in the country, to oppose any legislation or proposal that may weaken Title IX. As a city, let's send a message. And while many of the Commission's recommendations may sound harmless, here are a few examples of what they will do, and I'm going to end because my time is over. One proposal would allow schools to pretend that they are not giving athletic opportunities to men by not counting walk-ons who still receive the benefits of sports participation. The Commission would allow the use of interest surveys to limit women's opportunities by forcing them first to prove that they were interested in sports before giving them a chance to play. The Girls in Sports Report found that this
reportan que en esta
proposed
propuesta
retreat from Title IX's goal of gender
retrasa
equality
la
would
igualdad
lead to
de
the
género,
denial of more
es
than
la negación de
18
más
million
de
sports
18 mil
opportunities
oportunidades de
for
deportes
girls
para
and
las
young women
mujeres y
over a
gente joven de
generation.
una generación.
Colleagues,
Colegas,
I think it's
yo
important
creo que
that
es
we look
importante que nosotros veamos
our
a
daughters,
nuestras hijas,
our
a
sisters,
nuestras hermanas,
ourselves,
a
our
nosotros,
granddaughters,
a
and I
nuestras
will have
nietas, y voy a
one
tener
in a
una,
few
en
weeks.
unas
I will
cuantas
have a
semanas voy a
granddaughter,
tener una nieta,
and we can tell
y
them that
podemos
they will be
decirles
anything
que
that they
pueden
can
ser
dream
algo
of
de lo
being.
que pueden
President of
enseñar
the
a ser
United
presente en los
States
Estados
or a
Unidos,
professional basketball player.
básquetbol,
But in order for
pero
these
que
dreams
estos
to become a
sueños sean
reality,
una
we
realidad,
must
debemos
guarantee that our
garantizar que
daughters have
nuestras
the
hijas
same
tengan la misma
opportunity as our
oportunidad de que
sons. Let's
nosotros
protect Title IX.
vamos a
I
proteger
urge
el
you to
título de
support this today.
soporte en
Thank
esto.
you.
Gracias.
Thank you, Ms. Hahn.
Gracias.
Ms. Perry.
Thank you very much, and I want to
Yo más quiero
commend
recomendar a la consejera
Councilwoman Hahn
Hanna
for bringing
por
this
traer
to the
esta
forefront for
para
all of
adelante
us,
para todos nosotros.
and provide us with an
Proveernos con
opportunity
una
to do
oportunidad de
something
hacer algo
that
que
can actually touch
puede hacer
people's
tocar
lives in
la
a
vida
very
de las gentes
real
de
way,
manera
which
real,
is to send a
que
message to
mandar un mensaje a
Washington
Washington.
that our women,
Nuestras
our young
mujeres,
women, our young women matter a great deal as we struggle every day to make sure that we bring better opportunities, better nutrition, better after-school programs, more public safety, more housing opportunities, more job opportunities for these young women and young men, of course. But you know, we have to catch up, and I think it's a good opportunity for us as a body to tell Washington, D.C. and the Bush administration that this matters to us, and that we won't relent and we won't retreat, and we'll be watching them and make sure that they do the right thing. Thank you.
Mr. Reyes.
I just want to rise and stand
para
support of what's being
soportar
stated
lo que
about
está dicho sobre
this whole need for
toda la
equity.
necesidad por
As a
igualdad
father
como
of
padre
a
de
15-year-old
una
daughter,
hija de 15 años,
as a brother of 3
como hermano
sisters,
de 3 hermanas.
I understand exactly
Entiendo
what
exactamente qué es lo que
tribulations are out there
tribulaciones
just
están ahí afuera
because of
nomás
the gender
porque
difference. So
el
anything
frente
we can
género,
do
es decir,
to
cualquier cosa
create an
podemos
equal
hacer,
playing field is essential. So I
igualdad
applaud
es
you in this
esencial,
effort.
aplaudo en ese
Let's take a
esfuerzo,
strong statement.
vamos a
Thank
una declaración fuerte, gracias.
Councilmember Gruen.
Concejal Gruen.
I too want
Yo
to stand
también
in
quiero
support of
pararme
my
en soportar de
council
mi
colleague,
colegas concejal,
Councilmember Hahn. I was not quite as
yo no
athletic
estuve
as you
tan
were, so
atlético como usted,
I'm jealous.
entonces estoy celosa,
Didn't have the same
no
athletic
tuve las
abilities to be able
habilidades
to
atléticas para poder
participate in those
participar en
sports.
esos deportes,
But I do know as
pero
I go
yo sé
out
que
to
uno
the
salgo
baseball fields in my
a
district,
canchas
to
de
all the
béisbol y a
recreational
todos
parks,
los
facilities, and so forth, that we are seeing more
estamos
girls
viendo más mujeres
participate. We
participar.
also are seeing
Estamos
co-ed
viendo
baseball teams and soccer
béisbol de
teams,
coeds y
and so many,
soccer
I think,
y muchos, yo creo que
accomplishments that have occurred that we're
que no ha
saying
ocurrido que
women
estamos
can
viendo las
compete
mujeres
in
pueden
sports,
competir
women
en
can
deportes, pueden
participate
participar
with the men
con
and
los hombres
the young boys, but
los
particularly
hombres
to make sure that
particularmente
they're
están
treated
seguros que
equally,
están
and
tratados
want to
igualmente,
commend you
quieren
for bringing
comentar
this
para
forward
traer
to
esto
our
para
attention
adelante
so
nuestra
we make a
atención
strong
para hacer
statement
una
by
declaración
the City of
fuerte
Los
para la ciudad de Los
Angeles City
Ángeles.
Council
El
that
Consejo de la Ciudad de
the
que
efforts and
los
accomplishments of
esfuerzos
Title IX,
de título
although have been
9,
great,
aunque
they need
siendo
to
grandes,
continue
necesitan continuarse.
because we must continue to fight the fight, as
continuar
Pam
la
Cook
pelea.
so
Pau
eloquently
Quintel Le
stated.
Cuenta dijo que
Things since
las cosas
1970
de los
have not
70
changed
no
as
han
much
sido
as we would like, so
como
we
nos
need to be
gustaría entonces
diligent. So I
hacer.
want to stand in support
Quiero
of your
para eso,
motion
para
today.
su moción.
Mr. Garcetti.
Garcetti.
Just very briefly, thank you, Mr.
Gracias,
President, and
presidente, y
congratulations, Ms. Hahn, on this. I think that there's some who might not
Yo
think this
creo
is
que
a
no
local
creo que
issue,
sea
but
una
this is
cuestión
an
local,
intimately
pero
local
eso no
issue.
es
When we look at the
cuando
impact
vemos el
of our
impacto
Rec
de
and
nuestro
Parks Department
son
on
partes del
girls and on
departamento de
women,
mujeres y
making
mujeres
sure
están
that we
seguras
have
de que
equity.
tenemos
I
igualdad.
want to praise the Commission on
Quiero
the
poner la
Status of Women for
Comisión
their
de
work in
Mujeres
this
por su
area,
trabajo
making
en
sure
este
that
estar
girls
seguros que las
and that
mujeres
women have the same
tienen los
rights,
mismos
the same
derechos y
access, and
los
really pushing
accesos y
forward for our own city internal policies to mirror that of what Title IX
el título
demands.
no demanda.
And I
Y
think
también
underscores
creo
even
que
more the importance of the
la
implementation
importancia
of
de
CEDAW, the
implementación de
Convention to Eliminate All
para
Forms of
eliminar todas las
Discrimination
formas
Against
de
Women,
discriminación
which this
contra las
council body
mujeres
has said we would implement, which we're still struggling to find the way and manner to give some teeth to, but this is something where across the board we can look at the impact of our department, even if it is a weekday, and Title IX is rolled back by our federal authorities, and I pray that they do not. We will be able to hold the line here through our own internal policies to make sure that there is equity. So congratulations, and I anticipate a unanimous vote, I'm sure, for this
voto
today.
unánime para esto de aquí.
Mr. Holden.
Señor Holden.
I push my button
Yo
because
también
I didn't see
voy porque
any
no
men
vi ningunos
standing
hombres
at the
para
clock. Decided I better, I know,
decidir que
when I saw that, and so you
Eso
got to figure that
entonces,
a lot has been said.
mucho se ha dicho.
But then a lot has not been said.
pero que mucho no se ha
For
dicho.
example, every time I get an
Cada vez que
opportunity,
tenemos la oportunidad,
I stand before the body and I
para entrar al
remind
cuerpo y
them,
me recuerdo.
whereas they speak to issues like
Están hablando cuestiones
equality
de
for
igualdad
women,
para mujeres.
I'll have you know, and
Puedes
I repeat
saberles,
once
se voy a
again,
repetir una vez más.
the department is
El
treated the
departamento está
least,
tratado lo menos.
receives the least amount of
Recibe
funds
menos
from the
fondos
budget.
del
Is the
presupuesto
Commission on
de la
Status of
Comisión
Women.
de Estatuto de Mujeres.
We have women on the city
Tenemos mujeres
council,
en el Consejo de
we
la
have men
Ciudad,
on the
tenemos
city
en el
council,
Consejo de la Ciudad
and they don't give
y no
money
les dan dinero
for those
a
programs
esos
here in the
programas
city.
aquí en la ciudad.
I think you ought to put
Yo
your money
creo
where
que
you
no
put
ponen
your
haciendo
mouth.
donde ponen la boca.
I've been saying that
Lo
over
estoy
and
diciendo
over
una y
again.
una otra
In
vez.
fact, there's a
De
proposal on
hecho,
the
como
board,
aparece en la Cámara,
to cut
para
that
cortar
department
ese
3%.
departamento
All
3%,
departments.
todos los
And the
departamentos
Commission on Status
y
of
la
Women.
Comisión de Estatuto
And the
de
Department
Mujeres
of
y el
Aging,
departamento de
senior citizens.
ciudadanos de
I don't know where they put their
los
priorities,
ciudadanos son unas
but
prioridades.
obviously not in the right
Obviamente
place,
no en el lugar
or where you
apropiado,
think they ought to
de
be
donde
placed.
creen que se deben de ponerse.
And I must
Y
tell you
debo
that
decirles que
women are great
las
athletes,
mujeres son las grandes atletas,
in my view.
en mi vista.
I hate to tell you the truth, but
Y
this
decir
is the
la
truth.
verdad, pero esto es la verdad.
I used to race a girl
Yo
when
lo
I
que
was a young
recibo
kid, and she
una
would whip me
mujer
every
y
time.
ella siempre me ganaba.
Everybody does.
Todos,
She beat
todos.
me
Ella me
until I turned
ganaba
about
hasta
14
que
to
yo tuve
15.
14 o 15.
And I was so glad to be able
Estuve
to win
tiempo
the
de
race.
ganar la
But I
carrera,
never saw
pero
anything
nunca vi
as fast
algo
as my
tan
wife.
rápido como eso
The
en vida.
problem,
Y el
she was
problema
never,
es que
the skills
nunca
were never cultivated. She
no
was
se
never,
cultivaba,
nobody was there to help her.
nunca estaba ahí para
Just think how
llegar
far in
más.
the world
Pensé
she
que
was gone
tan
into
hubiera llegado
athletics.
lejos en el atletismo.
And what I'm saying is that
Lo que estoy
Title
diciendo
IX
es
is a
que
good
el título
program.
no es un buen
We
programa,
should keep it in place.
debemos mantenerlo en lugar.
President
Presidente
dismantle that operation and weaken it
desmantela la
anyway.
operación.
He makes a big
Él
mistake
es un gran error.
in more ways than one.
En más maneras,
He makes a political
es un
mistake because
error
most women
político
in
porque
the
las
United States
mujeres
of
en
America
Estados Unidos
vote.
votan.
So from the standpoint of
Desde el punto
politician,
de
I
político,
don't want him tripping and falling. But the fact of the matter,
el
don't
hecho
use
es
this
que no
issue to
usen
do
esta
so.
cuestión para hacerlo.
And I support
Yo
this
soporto esta
motion,
moción
and I hope I know
y
it'll be
espero
unanimous.
que va a ser
But
unánime,
I also would
pero
urge my
también urgería a
colleagues
mis
as I
colegas
leave
como
the
salven
council
del
to
Concilio
vote
que
to
voten
support
para
the
soportar
commission
la
on the
Comisión
status
del
of women
Estatuto de las
in the
Mujeres
city of Los
en la
Angeles,
ciudad de
which
Los
they don't
Ángeles,
do
aunque no lo
now.
hacen ahora.
Aren't you surprised to hear that?
No sorpresa no ser, pero es la verdad.
Thank you, Mr. Hogan. Other
Gracias a
members
los
wishing to be
miembros que
heard?
deseen ser oídos.
Seeing no further speakers,
Si no hay más
Madam Clerk,
oradores,
please open the
cierre la
roll.
lista.
Please close the roll
Cierre la
and
lista y
tabulate
establece
the
el
vote.
voto.
13 ayes.
13 sí.
That is approved.
Está aprobado.
Forthwith, please.
Adelante, por favor.
Next item.
Próximo asunto.
Mr. President, next item
Próximo
number 5,
asunto número
call
5,
special by
llama especial por
Councilmember
concejal
Weiss.
Weiss.
Call special by Mr. Weiss. This is a matter in Mr. Pacheco's district.
Distrito del señor Pacheco.
Either one of you want to
¿Alguien
make
quieren
a
hacer un
comment?
comentario?
Mr. Pacheco.
Señor Pacheco.
First, I have the staff report,
Tiene el reporte
then
de estado.
take public
Y
comment,
toma comentario.
and then if council members have
Eso no es
questions, we can go
consulta
from there.
preguntas, vamos a ver.
So,
We'll hear from the staff first, and
Vamos a
without
ver del
objection,
equipo,
we'll
sin
be open to
objeción,
public
vamos a ver la
hearings. You
vista
have some
pública. Tenemos
speaker
algunas
cards submitted.
tarjetas sometidas.
The appropriate staff here on item number 5.
El asunto número 5.
I'm Bill Koenig with the CAO's office. The item in front of you is the proposed direct sale of property, city-owned property to the Los Angeles Wholesale Produce Mart. In January of 2002, the mayor and council determined that the sale of this property to the Wholesale Produce Mart LLC would be in the best interest of the city. Staff were instructed to proceed with obtaining an updated appraisal and to negotiate the sale with the LLC. An issue that arose during the negotiations is basically hinging around the lease. Currently, the property is leased from the city by the Wholesale Produce Mart. If the sale would be to these people, the restrictions that currently exist in the lease that it shall be retained as a Wholesale Produce Mart through the year 2048 would be eliminated. If the property were to be sold to a third party, these lease restrictions would in fact remain. City staff spent a significant amount of time discussing with real estate professionals the appropriate method to value this property. There was no opinion that a consensus could not be reached of the real estate professionals. Therefore, a composite negotiation package was developed using the prior 3 appraisals and the opinion of the city's broker. City staff prepared a package, which was then presented to the Wholesale Produce Mart and their attorneys. Negotiations were undertaken, and a sale price was agreed to of $18 million cash with a restriction value of $20 million to ensure that the mayor and council's directive of the property being maintained as a wholesale produce mart would continue through the year 2048. Representatives of the city attorney and the Department of General Services Asset Management Division are here answering questions.
Okay, thank you very much.
Muchas gracias.
Members, without
Miembros,
objection,
si
go
nos
then
sumamos
to the speaker
entonces a
cards
las
next.
tarjetas
Council calls
que eran
forward
la
Francis
Cámara
Park,
Electa Francis Park,
to be followed by Lucinda
seguida por
Sterritz,
Lucinda Sterritz,
Richard Gardner,
Richard Gardner,
Diana Chacon,
Diana Chacon,
Apollonia Aguada, and Daniel Rios. You can please feel free to form a line
por una línea pronto.
Honorable council members,
Gracias,
my name
miembros.
is
Mi
Richard
nombre es Richard
Gardner.
Gardner.
I'm with the Los
Yo soy
Angeles
el
Wholesale
Cangrejo
Produce
Produce
Market,
Market.
and I'm here
Soy aquí
representing the 25
represento al
tenant
25
owners
inquilinos
of the approximately
de aproximadamente
430,000 square feet
430,000
of warehouse
pies de
buildings
bodegas
on the city-owned
en las
parcel.
parcel de la ciudad.
The dream of the
El
produce
dueño de
tenants
los inquilinos de
to have their own destiny fulfilled by owning the land underneath the produce market was started with the promise by the city 17 years ago when the market was developed that if they became economically viable enough, they would have an opportunity to purchase the land underneath the produce market. We are proud of the fact that with the city's help, the produce market has become a $2 billion industry in the city of Los Angeles, employing 5,000 minority citizens with high-paying union jobs. In addition, we have a charitable distribution facility that distributes 1 million pounds of produce a month to over 300 to 400 charities and other organizations that depend on this food as their livelihood daily. The tenants in the produce market were supported by their fathers and grandfathers who actually started the produce industry in Los Angeles, and their children who are also in the business, various businesses. With the purchase of the property, we'll be able to ensure that the produce industry remains in Los Angeles for at least the next 50 years. We're at a crossroads which started 5 years ago with discussions with the city, 2 years of arduous negotiations, and we urge your support for a sale of this property to the produce merchants. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Muchas
Next
gracias
speaker,
por su mandato, por favor.
Good morning. I'm
Buenas
Francis
noches,
Park from
Francis
Latham and Watkins, representing the LA Wholesale
represento el
Produce
Wholesale
Market.
Market.
We're pleased to be here
Estamos
today.
aquí con
We
gusto estar
agree with
aquí.
the
Estamos de acuerdo
recommendation
con
from
la
the CAO and the city attorney and the motion adopted by the ITGS committee to approve the terms of the sale to the produce market. The produce market has successfully operated at this site since 1983. This is the culmination of a great redevelopment project that kept the produce industry in the city of LA in the early 1980s. Through the efforts of the city and the investments made by the produce market, this site now accounts for over $2 billion in economic activity and over 5,000 high-paying union jobs. We would like to continue this success story for years to come. The proposed sale would restrict the site's produce uses until 2048. Presently, this property is restricted for produce uses until 2010. This sale would therefore extend that for 38 more years until 2048 and permit the necessary investments by the produce market to keep this vibrant industry alive and growing. On January 22nd, 2002, the City Council unanimously adopted, by a 12-0 vote, a resolution that the public interest is best served by the direct sale of this property to the produce market. The city at that time considered the possible range of prices to be $11.3 to $15.6 million. The city made this public policy decision over 16 months ago, and it is still correct today. A competitive bid process is not relevant in this circumstance. For instance, if the property was sold to a third party, that party would take the property subject to the existing ground lease and development agreement, which would allow the produce market to use the property for non-produce uses after 2010. A third party would not be able to agree to the further restrictions that are in the proposed terms of sale that ensure that produce uses remain on the site until 2048. A sale to any other party could have the unintended consequence of driving this produce industry out of the city of LA. The proposed sale, therefore, continues to be in the best interest of the city. A total of 3 separate appraisals have been prepared to value the city's interest in this property. The first appraisal, dated April 2001, was prepared by Mason & Mason and established a value for the city's interest of $11.3 million. A second appraisal, dated February 2002, was prepared by C.B. Richard Ellis and set the value at $8.9 million. The third appraisal, dated April 2002, was prepared by Thomas Pike & Associates and established the value of $14.3 million. The $18 million purchase price is therefore higher than any of the 3 appraisals and higher than the range of prices anticipated by the City Council in January 2002 when it authorized the sale. At the ITGS committee meeting on May 28th, a nearby property owner testified in opposition and asked the committee to delay the proposed sale. ITGS committee, with concurrence from city staff, determined that there is no valid basis for delaying the proposed sale to the produce market. Given the clear public policy directions, we respectfully request that you approve item number 5. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Derrick?
Good morning, Council. Cindy Sterrick from Latham & Watkins, also on behalf of the Produce Mart. What I'd like to do is make a couple of quick comments and then ask if we can answer any questions that may come up later regarding this project. You may wonder why this is back to the Council 16 months after the Council approved the sale at no less than $11.3 million. The reason it's back and the reason it took 16 months is because it was an extremely difficult negotiation. Staff was very, very hard on the Produce Mart, perhaps because it was a sole source sale, and that's why they're bringing back to you now an $18 million purchase price, plus an additional $20 million for a $38 million valuation of the property. So they have managed to serve the city by bringing you back almost $7 million more in a sale price, which is more than the unrestricted value that our appraisers showed. In addition to that, we have extremely onerous deed restrictions, so that under the current terms, if this sale did not go through and was not approved by the Council, in 2010, the Produce Mart could turn to other uses. But under the terms the city has negotiated and our client has agreed to with great difficulty, that cannot happen until 2045. Very rigorous, a number of legal mechanisms have been introduced, including a power of termination enforceable in court, to ensure that this produce use stays. This is a success story for the city. It's something property the city acquired in the mid-80s. The tenants came in, they invested here, their families have invested here, and they are now asking the city to fulfill the process it initiated 5 years ago of letting them buy the property and stay there. So we ask for your help, and we also ask for the chance to answer any questions that might be raised by our competitor, which we understand has come in with some last-minute issues. Thank you.
My name is Diana Chacon, and I'm 16 years old, and I'm a current high school student at Roosevelt High School in Boyle Heights. I'm here to speak on behalf of the Rewarding Youth Achievement Program. I have been a participant of the RYA program for about a year now. The RYA program is known for providing students with resources who not usually are available to students. As an RYA participant, I have been able to explore my career interests with an internship at Belvedere Middle School with the music department. At the time, I expressed my interest in going into sound engineering, and they found sites for me to interact, but of the lack of transportation and time constraints, I was unable to take the offer. There aren't many music studios or stations near the Boyle Heights area. Most are located in Burbank or Hollywood. Opening up the technology center will make available equipment to low-income students who normally don't have access to it. Most students in Boyle Heights find it difficult to explore their career interests because of the lack of availability. Most don't even have a
Antes
computer
ni
at
siquiera tiene
home.
una
Having the
computadora, tiene
technology
la
center
tecnología en centro,
close to home will help
cerca de
out the
casa
students a
de
lot.
los estudiantes.
I remember last fall, right around the time of the application deadlines, I visited the RY office and it was packed with students completing their applications and essays.
Aplicaciones.
The lab they were working
El laboratorio
on was also used as an
estuvo usado
instructional
como
lab where students
institución
can
de
learn how to use
laboratorio para
computers.
hacer computadoras.
So many of them had
Muchos de
to
ellos
wait
tuvieron que
during
esperar
that time frame
durante ese tiempo
and take turns
y
using
tomar
two
términos
computers
para
that were
computadoras
reserved
que
for
fueron
RY only.
reservadas por una manera.
There are many needs to
Hay
be
muchas
met in our
necesidades
community, and thanks to people like Nick Pacheco and the RYA staff and the Youth Opportunity Movement, we are meeting those needs little by little. In the current state of our economy, seeing something like this follow through is very rewarding. Once again, I would like to thank everyone who made this possible, and thank you for your time.
Good morning, my name is Carmen Diaz. I will translate for Mrs. Aguado, who is a parent.
Buenos días.
Good morning.
Mi nombre es Apolonia Aguado.
Good morning, my name is Apolonia Aguado.
Estoy aquí soportando la venta del edificio de la Marqueta.
I am here supporting the sale of the Produce Mart.
Y yo tengo 3 hijas en el programa de You Opportunity.
I have 3 daughters who are participants in the Youth Opportunity Program.
Sí, y ese programa las ha ayudado mucho.
The program has helped them very much.
Ellas han ido a centros culturales.
They have gone to cultural centers and cultural activities.
Sí, han tenido entrenamientos.
They have had internships and training.
Han tenido tours.
They have had college tours.
Han ido a universidades.
They've been to universities.
Y asistencia legal, asistencia general.
And they have received general support and assistance from the program.
Y quiero dar las gracias al señor Pacheco.
I would like to thank Councilman Pacheco
por traer este programa a nuestra comunidad.
For bringing this program to our community.
Gracias.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Daniel Rios, and I am a participant and assistant of the Youth Opportunity Movement. Today, I would just like to take the time Today, I would like just to take the time to address my appreciation to Nick Pacheco and the dedicated staff of the Youth Opportunity Movement for all their concern for the future of our youth and our community. Today, our community faces many disadvantages but with the continuous support, actions, and efforts of Nick Pacheco and the Youth Opportunity Movement, big changes are starting to happen already. Boyle Heights is a well-known city in the media for its beautiful monuments and its gateways to downtown LA and its diverse cultural settings. But not all the stories selected about our community represent our true life stories. But now, thanks again to Nick Pacheco and the Youth Opportunity for bringing us an upcoming updated technology center. Our community will be able to learn how to do all the things that need to be done to make a film that really represent our own stories. This technology center will be an advantage to both the city and our community because youth will come out of here learning how to do well-paying jobs that our community long has deserved. Because technology has become a big part of our business world. Yeah, so I would just like to thank again Nick Pacheco and the Youth Opportunity Movement for all their support, and I'd like you guys to please support item 5.
Thank you very much. This concludes public comment. On item number 5, returning now to council discussion. Mr. Pacheco, you still have some time left.
Mr. President, colleagues, I just wanted to give you a little background here.
antecedentes
Back
aquí.
in October
En
of
el 8 de octubre del
1999, I had
99,
asked the city
la
attorney's office,
Fiscalía de la
Mary
Ciudad
Dennis
de Meridian
specific, gave us a report
que
back
nos dio
on
un
what the
reporte de
options
lo que
were,
las
if
opciones,
there was an interest in
si había un
selling
interés
our
en vender
underlying
nuestro
lease or
contrato
fee interest in the property
en la
that Wholesale
propiedad
Produce
que
Mart
el mar de Produce era parte de eso.
And from October of
Y de octubre
1999,
del
when I received the
99, cuando
response to
recibí la
January
respuesta en enero
2001,
del
I spent
2001,
a
yo
year
me pasé
working
un
with
año
the city
trabajando
attorney's
con la
office,
Fiscalía de la Ciudad,
the Wholesale Produce Mart,
mar
to
de
basically
Produce
understand
Inquilinos
what
para
was the
entender qué
genesis
es
of
el
this whole
génesis de
project,
todo este
what
proyecto,
was it exactly
cuál era
that I was
exactamente
looking at,
que lo que
because I
estaba
didn't know the
viendo,
history
porque
of
no
the
sabía la
Produce
historia
Mart.
del mar
And
de
they basically
Produce.
shared with
Básicamente
me
compartieron
2
conmigo
volumes
dos
of
volúmenes de
information
información
about the Produce
acerca
Mart,
del
the
mar de
jobs
Produce,
there,
los trabajos
the
ahí,
working
la
families, many
familia
of
de
them
trabajo,
in the
muchos de
Teamsters
ellos en
Union,
la reunión de
the
Teamsters y
entrepreneurship that came from that whole
entrepreneurs que
project,
salió de todo ese
and
proyecto
the
y
fact that this
el
was
hecho
a
de que esto era
private-public venture in the mid-'80s, where, according to the LA Times, they were enticed back to the table because eventually they would become owners. So now we're here 17 years later from that 1980 issue, and we have a redevelopment project that has been successful. And I just wanted to make sure that the city of Los Angeles kept its commitments, and at the same time, there was an opportunity to help our youth by opening a youth center in Ball Heights as an extension of the Youth Opportunity Movement. And I know if the Youth Opportunity Movement individuals can stand up. Are you all here, the kids from Youth Opportunity? I just want to recognize them and thank them for coming down. They're obviously very interested in making sure that that youth center comes to fruition. So in January of 2001, after about a year of reviewing this, introduced the motion. January 2002, the council authorized the sale to tenants. In May 2003, the term and price have all come to a conclusion, and that's what before us, approval of the final negotiations of this basically 4-year, or close to 4-year, 3.5-year process that we've gone through. We've gone through many public hearings and committee meetings, and so colleagues, I would simply ask for your support on this matter. It is definitely an item that's in the best interest of not only the city, but all those involved, the working families at the Produce Mart, the union jobs that they provide, that are staying here in Los Angeles, and obviously what's going to happen in the community.
Mr. Brinson.
Mr. Brinson.
Well, I think most of the questions
Casi
that I was
todas las
going to
preguntas
ask
que iba a
have
preguntar
been
ya se
answered.
contestaron.
This CRA is no longer
Este
part of
CRA ya
this
no es parte de
because
esto
they were
porque ellos
reimbursed to the
fueron
original
reembolsados
price.
del
Is
precio
that
por
correct?
alto, ¿no es cierto?
Was the CRA reimbursed
Ese
for
fue
the original
reembolsado por
purchase
el
price of the land?
I see. Fueron reembolsados. Cuando la ciudad
The
compró
city
la
used
propiedad, la
what
ciudad
funds
usó
to
qué
do
fondos para hacer
that?
eso.
General funds or what?
Fondos generales o qué fue extensión de fondos para comprar la propiedad.
Okay, that's basically
Entonces, básicamente todo lo que razón por la que es que sí.
CRA funds,
Los fondos,
which would have had bonds against it,
fondos en contra
have
de
been
eso
reimbursed,
se
so there
reembolsaron.
would be no
Entonces
encumbrance
no
that
había
way.
conveniencia de
I'm
eso.
going to
Entonces voy a
support
soportar
that,
esto
even though I do have some
aunque yo
questions
tengo algunas preguntas
about how
acerca
these
de cómo
funds
estos fondos
are split up and
se
why they don't
reparten
go
y
into
por
the
qué no
general
van
fund,
al fondo
but
general.
this is your last hurrah,
Esta es
just as it
última,
is
entonces
mine,
como
and
la
I know
mía,
you've worked on
entonces
this for a
yo he
long
trabajado
time,
mucho tiempo.
and I understand John
Yo
Farrell
entiendo
had
John
a
Ferraro
strong
tuvo
interest in the
un
mine as
interés
well,
fuerte también en el
so I
mar.
am going to
Entonces
support
voy
it.
a soportar.
Mr. Weiss.
Señor Weiss.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Gracias,
The issue
presidente.
for
La
me,
cuestión para mí,
I want to make it very
quiero
clear.
ser
There's
muy
been
claro
some,
que ha habido algún
we had a debate a few weeks ago
debate hace
about
unas
supporting our
semanas sobre
firefighters. There was
nuestros
some mention in the
bomberos, se
newspaper this
mencionó
morning about
números
supporting our
hacia soporte a los
firefighters.
bomberos.
The issue for me is
La
ensuring
cuestión es que
that when the
asegurar de
city
cuando la
takes an
ciudad
action
tome
here,
acción
it
aquí,
gets every last
agarra
nickel
todo lo
it
que
can
pueda
from the purchaser,
del
so we can
comprador
do
para
even
poder hacer
more
más
for our firefighters
nuestros
and our police
bomberos y
officers
oficiales de
and our
policía y
community.
nuestra comunidad.
If we don't
Si no
maximize the
maximizamos el
value
valor
from this city property,
de propiedad de la ciudad,
then we are
entonces
selling
nosotros estamos
our
vendiendo
firefighters
nuestros
and our police
bomberos y
officers
oficiales de
short.
policía cortos.
I'd like to ask the
Me gustaría
dynamic
pedir
duo
a
of Cecilia Escalano and Ron Deaton to approach the witness stand. Mr. Deaton, come on.
Señor Deaton, venga.
And Mr. Miller,
It's a
too.
civil matter, not a criminal matter.
And Jerry Miller as well.
Y Jerry Miller también, buenos días.
I want to There was a statement
Hubo una
made
declaración hecha
by the Sellers Council
por el Concilio de los
that is the
Vendedores
subject
que
of my
es
inquiry.
objeto
The
de mi
statement was something to the effect
del
of
hecho de que
a
una tercera
third-party purchaser,
persona
not this
compra
purchaser,
nuestra,
but an
pero
additional
no
purchaser,
comprador
third-party
adicional.
purchaser, if they attempted to
Si
come in
intentaran
and
venir
purchase this
y comprar
property,
esta
would take
propiedad,
subject to the
tomaría
ground lease and the
sujeto
development
al
agreement,
desarrollo de
and could not
y no
agree
podría estar de
to
acuerdo
further
hacer más
restrictions
restricciones
on the property until
la propiedad hasta
2048.
el 2448.
I'm not certain I
No
agree
estoy
with that,
seguro
and
que
that's
esté
what
de
I want
acuerdo,
to
eso es
get
lo que
at.
yo
So
quiero
let
salir.
me start by
Entonces,
asking
salí
you, who owns the
preguntando
property
el dueño de la
now,
propiedad
and
y
who's the lessor or lessee? What are
es
the
el
terms? Hold my time.
rentador.
The city of Los Angeles is currently the property owner. The lessee is the, we'll just call it the LLC, the Wholesale Produce Market LLC is currently the lessee. It is technically true that a third party would purchase this property subject to the lease.
But wait, let's.
You want to do a line of
Do me a
questioning?
favor. No. But I just want to. I want to talk about this logically. So start at the beginning.
There's currently incoming the property development agreement that runs until, that requires that it only be used as a wholesale produce market until 2010. Then the terms of the lease runs until 2048, sets up a series of disincentives for the LLC to use it for anything other than a produce market. So they could use it for other things, but then they'd have to, their lease payments to the city would dramatically increase.
There's a trigger point in the current lease at 2010.
Correct.
And what is that? Yes, no, maybe?
Sí, no, quizás.
Along with the
Y juntamente
development
con el desarrollo de la
property
propiedad de desarrollo de acuerdo que el covenante demuestra y de acuerdo es que define hasta el de 2010. El contrato dice más allá de 2048 tiene sus términos. Después del 2010 solamente sigue el contrato que controla el uso de la propiedad. Y solamente el contrato que requeriría que la renta aumentaría si alguna de la propiedad fuera usada por uso no de verduras y el uso primordial de cambiar, entonces la observa fuera evaluada y entonces recibirá un aumento en la renta.
So there is a covenant that runs with the land and expires in 2010? It doesn't run with the land, there's a covenant.
It's a covenant that was created and is defined in the development agreement.
That's a recorded property interest that expires in 2010, or is it just a term in the lease? I don't understand.
It's recorded as the development.
And it expires in 2010.
The covenant restricting it to produce use as defined in the development agreement expires in 2010.
It's a real property interest that expires in 2010.
Yes.
And then there's a lease that continues until 2048.
Correct.
That the city currently has with the LLC, under which the LLC agrees to operate as produce.
They agree to certain lease terms, to lease payments. If they use it for something other than a produce market, their lease payments to the city will increase. It creates disincentive for them to use it for something other than a produce market, but it does not prohibit them from using it for something other than a produce market.
Okay, so now explain to us how the current proposed deal works to extinguish or take out, or you fill in the right verb, the covenant and or the lease.
Because we are selling to the lessee, we're selling them the property interest, the fee and the lease will interest merge. And so the lease in essence goes away, because would they enforce the lease terms against themselves? Likely not, if they want to do something different. So we needed an instrument. The council had directed us in January 2002 to enter into direct sale and restrict the property for only wholesale produce use until 2048. The instrument we came up with was a covenant secured by a power of termination. The way this works is if they use it for something other than a produce market until 2048, we can go into court and enforce the power of termination. If it is still feasible for them to use it as a produce market and they have used it for some other use, we can actually get the property back without paying any additional money. It's a very severe sanction. It's in the civil code. So that's how that covenant works.
And that's part of the deal that's on the table before the council today.
That is correct.
Okay. So now hypothetically, a bona fide third party comes forward and says, I would also like to buy property, I'll pay you value plus, and I would like to subject myself to the same legal conditions that the current purchaser before the council is subjecting itself to. Question for my lawyer is, can we strike such a deal with that third party?
Mr. Weiss, and after this question, I'll ask you a question.
I will push it again, but this is an important issue. It's from a question from my lawyer.
We would probably have to enter into an agreement where a condition of the purchase is they get some estoppels, or they get an agreement with the current lessee, the LLC, to agree to change the terms of the lease. Because as I said, the lease does not require them to do only wholesale produce use on that site. So in theory, you could say to a third party, all right, we'll sell it to you for X amount of money, but only on the condition that you prove to us that you've gotten this agreement, amending the leases by the current lessees to agree to this condition. Otherwise, they can't really do that. Otherwise, they'd be taking it subject to this agreement, to this covenant. And if they violated that covenant, in theory, we could enforce against them. However, we know they're taking it subject to these leases. So we have to see some proof that they've gotten agreement from the lessees to give up their rights under the current lease and agree that through 2048, they will only use it as a produce market.
So it could be done.
It could be done. It would require an additional couple of steps, but it could be done.
It could be done.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. One thing I think is important to realize, all of these issues came before the ITGS, and well over an hour discussion, we've asked the city as to whether the procedure that we went through was appropriate. It was directed by the council well over 2 years ago. The one thing I think we have to be concerned with is this late rush as to an individual believing that he would pay more. This has been common knowledge. This property has been in a sale mode for 2 years. The first time we've heard that is at the committee. And again, as we talk about the leases, there's no assurance that you can negotiate a lease that has these kinds of covenants in it that would then allow the protection to the city. The fact that the current lease agreement allows the city to negotiate with the people that are present. And I think what's most important to me when I made my decision is we're fulfilling a commitment that was made to those in place 18 years ago, that they would eventually be landowners and continue to run their business. The city, I believe, went through a very laborious negotiation to move from 11 million to 18 million, which is significant. And I think also the issue that deals with the caveat that if they turn this over in a 12-year period, the city then has another string to attach to a $20 million payment in its behalf if they choose not to follow suit. So we have strengthened that covenant by making it a mandate of this purchase that takes it to 2048. We have also appears to have gotten the most significant amount of money that we can possibly get. And I think we have fulfilled the promise that's 18 years ago that those tenants would be landowners and continue to run the business as it was stated. And with that, that was the reason that after an hour plus of discussion, we moved this forward because all of those issues were discussed and brought out in open. The city attorney and the CAO specifically responded that this is not an unusual process, something that council directed, so that's what we moved forward. So I would also support Mr. Pacheco and ask for an aye vote on this issue.
Ms. Grewal.
Thank you. Some of my questions have been asked, and I know Mr. Weiss has some additional ones. He'll push the button again. We'll get to hear from him. But just to, kind of reiterate the benefits of the produce market and the reasons to keep it a produce market. If you could explain that to all of us. And I was in Tom Bradley's office when we created the produce market and the importance of that neighborhood. The other would be, and I think we've heard the answer about it, this is a normal process. Do we always do private party negotiations, or do we go out to bid? It sounds like, again, that from your explanation, both the city attorney and CLA, you did go through this normal process, but just to reiterate that. And then, what happens if the sale does not occur? To say if either party pulls out, what happens to that property? They have their current leases, is that correct, for how many years? So those would be my first three questions.
Well, first off, it's not a normal process because it's not a normal situation. You have a piece of property which we own, the city owns, but there is this very long-term lease that has certain conditions to it. And therefore, the negotiating with the
Está
leasehold
negociando con el contratista los intereses fue
in an effort to keep
un esfuerzo
the
para
produce
mantener
market
el mercado
in
de
place
productos en lugar.
was the logical process to use, and that's why
Proceso
there
para usar y
wasn't
por eso es que no había
a bid situation. Let the city attorney explain if you go back to the lease, but pursuing the question, a third party
una tercera parte
by themselves cannot deliver the deal that is before the council today. It takes the agreement of the leasehold interest to change their lease to have the same deal. It is legally possible, but you have somebody that is negotiated with the city for a period of time, and the only way that you can get the same deal is for that party to agree with a third party to all those conditions and not have ownership of the property. Is that legally feasible? Yes. Is it likely? I would think not. And so if what this particular arrangement provides is that a longer-term provision for the city to oversee the fact that it'll be a produce market, and there's a financial remuneration in addition to that. And so and then there's a penalty if the prospective buyers want to use it for another purpose. Plus they have to come to the city in order to do that. And that's kind of the deal. As Mr. Parks indicated, the City Administrative Office and General Services have been negotiating the price up. I think that and we see two pieces to the price, one being the initial amount, and second, if there's a penalty if there's some other use being used.
And the other question was
Otra
about
pregunta
what
fue
happens
acerca de
if
qué pasa si la venta no ocurre.
stays as the lease
As
stays
it is, and
over.
I think the city
Sé
attorney
que
should
igual el
explain
fiscal
that.
y el
The status quo stays the
El
same.
status quo
We
se
have,
queda igual,
they're
tenemos
required to keep it as a
que
produce market until
produce hasta
2010,
20
and then the
días,
lease will
y
run
luego el
from
contrato
that point
correría
until
de que apunta hasta
2048. And again,
2048 y otra vez.
they could choose to use it for
Podrían
other
usarlo para otros
purposes, but there would be a
propósitos, pero
series of
entonces
disincentives.
se
The city would get
desincentivas
additional
que
lease payments if the LLC used it for other purposes. There's no obligation that they retain it as a produce market. I think you also asked what are the public policy benefits of produce use. We can't, I think that's something that CCLA can answer probably better than we can.
Well, I think that's a very fundamental part of Los
Es una parte
Angeles.
fundamental de Los Ángeles, el mercado de verduras y
It is not
que no
feasible
sea visible.
and not practical to continue that, which I have not been given
Que no
information
se da
to the
ninguna información a lo
contrary,
contrario.
that's something
Eso es
that
algo que
we should continue. I think
debemos continuar.
as you recall, the mayor at that time was trying to prevent it from being moved someplace else. And the local historian indicates to me that that's the city of industry. In any event, they were going to move. We didn't moved a lot of issues in order to maintain that they would stay in the city of Los Angeles. And I think that there hasn't been any, I don't believe, any public policy reason not to sustain that policy in the future.
Thank you.
Gracias.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Gracias, Presidente.
Mr. Weiss.
Señor Weiss.
I appreciate what
Yo
you
aprecio
all
lo
just
que todos
said, and I
acaban de
appreciate
decir,
the
yo aprecio las
representations that have been made all
representaciones
around
que
here. I
Pero
guess
aquí,
my
yo creo
concern,
que me
Mr.
preocupa,
Deaton,
señor
is
Deaton,
what you just said was that in all likelihood, because that's as strongly as you can say it, in all likelihood, a bona fide third party won't be able to give the city the level of value and level of assurance that the current proposed purchaser has. In a nutshell, that's what you did.
Well, if I might, I think I said that it's highly unlikely that the people who have the leasehold now would be willing to negotiate with a third party in order to be able to give the same deal to the city.
Highly unlikely, and I understand the reasoning there. And I understand that the council took an action a year and a half ago that set this ball rolling. But, You make decisions then based on, what was in the cards then. You make decisions now based on what's in the cards now. Values have changed. I mean, this whole business of appraisals, I mean, just to take one quick detour. I mean, anybody who owns a home in Los Angeles knows today that the appraised value of their home is X, and certainly if they put their home on the market, they're going to get more than X. That's just the nature of an appraisal. Appraisals tend to be more of a floor than anything else. Certainly in Los Angeles today, I don't know what it is when it comes to produce markets. I suspect they're more like that than otherwise. But we won't know. We won't know based on the way this is currently structured, whether a bona fide third party can come in and present an offer that is just as valuable to the city as one that's on the table. We don't know. Now, if we allowed third parties to come in and submit bids to the city right now, with the current proposal as a floor and with the current level of legal assurance in the current proposal as a floor, we would be able to open those sealed envelopes and find out, right?
Well, so long as the floor, anybody who would put such a bid into the envelope would have to have in the envelope as well a signed agreement with the existing leaseholders that they would agree to the provisions, the changes that are in this deal.
Well, I mean, that's, look, you might be right, that's one way to look at it, but I guess I'd love to hear from the city attorney as well on this, that would provide a means to kick the tires on this and have the ultimate assurance that you just told us you think is highly unlikely. That would be a way to get ultimately assurance that the city got top value for this property.
No, I'm just saying that, and I'm not, that approach is obviously feasible. I'm just saying the envelope cannot just have a price tag. The envelope has to have a signed agreement.
Well, I would put it differently, Mr. Diano. It has to have a signed agreement, but it has to be legally sufficient to assure our council that the third party will agree to the same level of encumbrance that the proposed purchaser has agreed to. Someone wants to speak.
Councilman Weiss, what we're really looking at here is this particular sale causes the lease to merge and disappear, basically. Any sale to any other party other than the tenants would have that party, the buyer, stepping into the shoes of the city. They would be bound by the terms of that lease. They cannot unilaterally come in and change that contract without the consent of the tenants who are the buyers in this situation, but in a sale to anyone else would be the tenants on the property. They would step in the shoes of the city, they would be the landlord, they would own the property, but they would not be able to change the commitment of the produce market people without their agreement.
But they could agree to encumber the property with an interest in real property that runs for land until 2048 to ensure that the property is only used for the produce purposes.
No,
they could agree to make that agreement with the city.
They can agree to it, but they can't deliver.
That's correct.
Because the city has a lease with the tenants. And we own the property. We can only sell to a third party what we own. And we own the property, the underlying property, until 2048. We have to live up to that lease. Any third party would have to live up to that lease as well. So a third party, to give us the same deal that is before you today, would have to get the agreement of the tenants. That's what I'm saying. In the envelope, not only does there have to be a number, there also has to be an agreement with the existing tenants that says that you, in essence, are not going to have a lease.
And I understand that point, but let me then ask you the question a different way, which is that if all of you have such a high level of confidence that at the end of the day, the offer that is on the table will remain the top offer before the city, what could possibly be the harm to permitting third parties to present sealed bids so the city can have, so the taxpayer city can have the final ultimate assurance that they did indeed receive top dollar for the property.
I'm not, that's a process that the city could do. I'm just, as you look at that process, in the envelope, the action you have to take is that you give it is not a simple number. You have to say any third party that wants to bid on this, come back to the city within X period of time with an agreement with the existing tenant that makes that lease go away.
Well, I understand your point. I would phrase it differently and say with legal assurance, the city signed off on by the city attorney that the property will be encumbered in the same manner as that proposed by the proposed purchaser. And then let the city attorney make that determination. I understand you're saying that ultimately that's going to be what they will talk about. Having said all that, what's the prejudice to the city from going through that process?
Answer.
I mean, that's the question is, what's the prejudice to the city from going through that process?
Oh, I thought we were... The problem I would see is that, and it goes to the issue I said as far as the likelihood of it happening. We have been negotiating with the tenants since January 2002. Then on the eve of making the deal, if you will, after the negotiations, we're going to say we're going to go back out for a period of time and ask you tenants who negotiated with for some time to...
that would be prejudice.
I've never had quite a reaction like that. Collect my thoughts. We're asking after 18 months or so of negotiations with a particular individual group of people, that those people then would, within that period of time, relinquish all rights, if you will, to that piece of property that they want to buy, so a third party could in fact be put in their place. I'm not saying that's not feasible.
And you haven't identified prejudice to the city from doing that?
I have not. But what I'm saying is the likelihood of that happening.
Fair enough. I'm just prejudice. My question was about prejudice.
No prejudice.
Given that the party is willing to put down $38 million, essentially,
and a document that shows they've got the power to...
Let me recognize Ms. Mikowska.
Thank you, Mr. President. I missed the beginning of this debate, but I think that at least some of the questions that have been asked today were some of the same questions that I was concerned about when I first learned about this project, because it is unique and it doesn't follow a normal course. But when one looks at the history and what has gone on here, we really should be celebrating today, I think, a success story. That the city, back in the Bradley administration, identified the Produce Mart as an important, vital interest to keep in the city. That at various times there were threats that it was going to leave the city, and that we wanted it there as a job producer, as an important, vital economic engine in our city. That we then negotiated with the lease, a long-term lease. And a long-term lease is, in real property, almost as good as owning a property, particularly a long-term lease. It's very, very substantive, and it gives control, essentially, of the property to the long-term lessee. With that control of the property as a lessee, this property owner invested and made improvements. We have come now to terms where this lessee has been so successful that we can do another good thing. We can turn over this property, sell this property as an advantage to the city, so that the lessee becomes the owner. The lessee who is now the control of the property becomes the owner of the property. We get immediate value for that in terms of sale of our property, and we very often do a sole source sale of the property when there are unique circumstances where there is a benefit to the city and it furthers an interest, whether it's a shared property vis-a-vis creating new parking lots with a public-private situation. We do that. This one is definitely laid out. We have the CAO, the CLA, the city attorney who said we've been doing it. We've been following directions of the council. This has been consistent with previous actions. I think it really is a win-win. And in fact, the one thing I didn't understand was this restriction that goes on the property that says if this owner, despite our good track record of having been a good lessee, doing what we've asked, preserving the market, now becoming an owner of the market, if for some reason this owner of the market chooses to sell it at some future time and not operate it consistent with what we decided and sells it for a higher value, we, the city, still benefit. We have the benefit of additional money, at least a minimum amount, that we would get as a consequence of the sale for supposedly a higher value. We thought the value is what it is today. We thought the value being operated as today had the highest value for the city, and I think it is an incredible success story, and I am very, very comfortable. Again, unique. Again, you have to deal with it and look at the issues. But as I say, that the opportunity for someone else to step in and say, I will buy it for more money, doesn't recognize that another buyer sits there with this lessee until the year 2048 having control of the property, which means that another buyer is not going to really be offering substantially more money because who's going to want to own it and not be able to control it until the year 2048. So I think this is the best, very, very good deal for the city, and I am happy to support it.
Mr. Holt.
President, members, just listening to the answers to the questions by the staff, the answers frustrate the heck out of me, and I probably vote the other way. The fact of the matter is the answer is clear. If you stop negotiation right now and start all over again by putting this amount of money that's off the floor, and then seek other competitors to purchase the property, is that called a bid preference, yes or no? It would be. That's a floor. They know what's being offered, then they can go from that point. I consider that to be a bid preference.
Well, Mr. Holden, there's no bid in this program.
I understand that. So, but the fact of the matter is that the competitors already know what the prices are, and that's called bait and switch. It means that you had already negotiated a deal with the tenants, and now you're going to switch and do something else. That's not good faith on the part of the city, in my view. You don't understand what I'm talking about. That's why you're going to lose it in court. They sue you for baiting and switching. And that's you cannot do. You've negotiated, you made a good faith effort, they made a good faith effort. Mr. Weiss and others probably voted for this a year and a half ago to continue the negotiation, and now you're going to talk about let's stall it. Switch. That should not be a policy for the city of Los Angeles. We're above that. Am I right?
¿No es cierto?
But that, hold my time when I ask the questions.
I'm not certain about the bait and switch. I'm not it's probably not the best. It's not good faith bargaining.
Of course it's not good faith. You're not sure about it. So when I watch you on TV, I'm going to turn the TV off when I'm not here anymore. He didn't give the right answer because he didn't know. Of course it's bait and switch. The fact of the matter is that that should not be the policy of the city, number one. Number two, it's a good project from the standpoint it paid off what it owed CRA. How many projects come through here like that? Less than 1%, 5%, 2%? I don't know. But not nearly enough. Good project. Bradley had a dream to keep the produce market here. He did. They paid their worth. They have. The support of the city project they have. It goes back to the tax rolls. Once you sell it, it will. What's the beef? I just want to give you an example as a comparative analysis for those who are not listening. There was a company called DreamWorks. And DreamWorks cut the deal with the property in Culver City, Playa Vista. And we sold it. We cut a deal with them, not to sell it, but some other deals. Then we had some land in Glendale that the city owned. Okay. And before DreamWorks pulled out of that deal, we sold the land that we owned to DreamWorks by Burbank, Glendale, wherever the area is. It was appraised at we knew it was worth like $25 million. Mr. Weiss. But they sold it
Pero
to
la
DreamWorks
vendieron a
for
DreamWorks
15
por
million
15 millones.
because they thought it was good for the
Porque iba a ser
interest of the
bueno
people
para
in
el
the city
interés
of
de la
Los
gente en
Angeles
los Los Ángeles
economically
económicamente.
and also
Y
for
también
jobs
para trabajos
and for
y
taxes,
para
etc.
impuestos, etc.
And so for that reason,
Entonces, por esa razón,
that's what they did.
eso es lo que hicieron.
This is a much better
Eso es un
deal
mejor trato.
than that deal. You do
Ya
remember that,
que
don't you,
recuerdan ese.
Mr.
I would agree
Yo
that
estoy de
this is a
acuerdo
better
que
deal
eso es
than that
mejor
deal.
que ese. Estoy de acuerdo que es mejor
And that's
trato
why
que
I voted no,
ese.
you
Por eso
think?
voté no.
All right, fine. I think it's a good deal, and we should take the money and put it where we cannot use it, and I'm going to vote aye. I don't understand all this harassment about this issue.
Mr. Pacheco.
Señor Pacheco.
First of all, colleagues, I just wanted to, in a short, briefly answer one of Mr. Weiss's questions about doing this bid that requires the third-party agreement between the lessee and the third party. It would be basically what would happen is we go out to bid, the whole world would know, and the only bid that would come back in compliance would be the same people we're selling to today, because their attorneys would advise them to not enter into any collateral agreements with any other person in the world, and you submit your response to the bid, and you'll be the only one deemed in compliance, because you have that that legal interest in that lease. And this question was actually talked about in committee. I have an April 16, 2001 report from Kaiser Marston and Associates. As remember, colleagues, this went through a year of analysis and review, and it concluded that given that the lease puts control of the site in the hands of the lessee, we see no inherent advantage to the third-party ownership. A third-party purchaser would have no incentive to make improvements, and that they would obtain no added rent as a result of capital improvements. Such an investor will either be a passive landowner or a speculator in the property's long-term value. The current lessee is the most motivated party to make improvements if the lease is extended or if the lessee obtains a fee interest. So, Mr. Weiss, we did go to experts to ask the question about a third-party sale, and they reported back to committee on April of 2001, over 2 years ago, that it was in the best interest of the city to sole source this to the tenants. And I will remind all of you that, you know, I'm not sure in other parts of the city how difficult it is to get redevelopment agreements going with private partners. They invested $63 million into this project. But when you're successful, especially when you represent a district like I do in the 14th, where basically a lot of poor families and entrepreneurship is coming through this project, we don't turn our back on our partners. And basically, we ask them to come to the table and be a part of this vision that Mayor Bradley had to keep the produce industry in our city. And I'm sure he was highly motivated by the fact that these are unions, high-paying jobs, and opportunities for entrepreneurship. And if you go down there, you'll see many people of all cultures and all ethnicities thriving and really providing the service to our residents. And finally, I know Mr. Holden said this, but here we also have an opportunity to put more into the tax rolls, because once it goes into private ownership, they will then be assessed by the county. And that, I know you did, Mr. Holden, I give you credit. And that is also helpful to us, especially when we're talking about the downtown community and increasing our tax base. So simply ask for an aye vote.
Mr. Pacheco, Ms. Rule for the second time.
I just have a question relative to this item. There seems to be a lot of issues that some of my colleagues have questions on whether or not what the downside would be to have it continued a week or a couple of days to address some of the bid issues and options from the perspective of the CLAO and the attorney.
Well, I don't know that there's necessarily a downside for continuing it a couple of days or a week. I guess the question would be at the end of the process, what one would expect. And I think as Councilman Pacheco indicated, one would not expect an agreement between the current lessees and a third party in any period of time, let alone a week.
And as far as Cecilia, sorry.
You may want to ask, actually, the LLC representatives that question, because from the city standpoint, there's probably not a downside, but there may be if the LLC folks have financing lined up for a limited amount of time. I don't know the answer to that question. That would be the only downside, I think. If after a certain point, we wouldn't be able to consummate this deal, then there could be a downside.
And if I can, and I did mention this to Cindy before I stood up here, I think I know what her answer is going to be from their perspective, but I think there were some questions asked by Mr. Weiss relative to some of the bidding issues that we might be able to get further answers to, but if Cindy wants to answer that question first.
On behalf of the LLC, if I could just say that we do have the financing lined up in order to close this transaction, as you all know. In January of 2002, the council voted unanimously for the sole source at the 11.3 minimum price. And so in the past 16 months, we've had many discussions with our lenders and with our board in order to get to this point, and we are now poised to close. We have the money available. We are very anxious to do this. We'd like to supply the money to the city as soon as possible. It's your choice how to spend it, obviously, but you have a lot of good ways to spend it, and so we certainly hope there isn't a further delay. We'd ask the council to consider moving forward as quickly as they can. And I also just want to make clear that this is just a ground lease. Our clients invested $30 million in building the buildings on this site. So the discussion earlier about what would happen if someone else replaced the city as the ground lessor and then went back to the people who own the buildings, if they would agree to changes to the lease affecting the land that their buildings sit on, is a very, very difficult negotiation. And I do believe the city's gotten the best deal that could be gotten. Your staff has done a fantastic job, but we are trying very hard to make this a win-win so our Produce Mart tenants can truly become owners and continue to be successful and continue to employ those 5,000 people here. So we'd ask you to act as soon as you can. Thank you.
And I don't know if any of my colleagues have an interest in having some of these questions answered and come back, but that would just be a potential amending motion.
Just clarification, I'm not sure what the question would be to ask, first respond to. I'm sorry.
I think it'd be relative, I know to some of Mr. Weiss's questions relative to the bidding process, and he might want to comment further on that item, but I know relative to open bidding, what the process would be, how if we use that before, or again, should we stay with the existing sole source that was approved by the council previously?
Mr. Weiss?
I guess the concern would be the following, and what I do appreciate the LLC's efforts to obtain financing. We've been going through a process for the last 16 months. But I listened carefully to your response, just as I listened carefully to Mr. Dean's response, and no specific prejudice was identified, certainly from a short period of time. And so I don't think any of us want to be constructing this blind bid idea on the fly here. And we're not even certain whether the city ought to go down that road. It may or may not be good public policy to go down the road. The request would be to take a week and ask the city attorneys to present to us a proposal for a blind bid, third-party blind bid process, so we would know what that involves, what sort of assurances, and provide us with alternatives that third-party purchasers would have to provide in order to ensure that the city was as good off from a third-party offer as it is from this particular offer. And so the request would be a motion for a one-week continuance, because even though no prejudice has been identified, we don't want to create prejudice where none already exists, to continue for 1 week so we don't have to on the fly, on the floor of the council, come up with a blind bid process, and we don't want you on the fly either as you're sitting here to neglect a legal issue that might actually be a good reason not to go down that road. You can present to us the pros and cons, and you can present anything else we would need to know about why it might be difficult or inadvisable to open the matter up to third-party bidding at this late hour. So that would be the motion if that's clear.
Is there a second?
Ms. Gruhl? Is that consistent with what you had in mind? Yes? Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Weiss. Mr. Reyes.
Well, the previous question, please.
The previous question has been moved. I have Mr. Holden and Ms. Miskowski on the queue. Please open the roll on the previous question.
Because he made a motion, you got to go. No, please.
This is on the previous
Esa
question.
es la pregunta anterior.
I'm on the
Estoy
previous
votando
question.
en la pregunta
Floor is
anterior.
open.
That motion has got to be
Se
answered.
puede ser contestado.
Close the roll.
Cierre la lista.
No, it has,
Tabulate
he
the
made
vote.
the motion.
Hizo la
8
moción.
ayes, 6 noes.
Not enough
Okay,
vote.
it fails. Mr. Holden for a second time.
Mr. Weiss made a motion that this be held over for a week.
Una semana.
Well, of course, but you got to
Claro,
debate
pero
it.
deben debatirla.
Mr. Holden, you have the floor.
Right, the fact of the matter is that it should not be held over for a week at all. And if it's held over for a week, if it's not closed, we're not closing this today or at any time in the near future, you do open yourself up for a lawsuit, in my view. The fact that matters, if you do what Mr. Weiss is saying doing, go out and start talking to some other, perhaps, purchaser, after you've been in negotiations for over a year, 18 months, that is a bait and switch. And that is, there are problems that's being generated and created. And it's unfair to the whole process. And if you do it here, why did you do it in other cases? And the court's going to look at the other cases where it's not done like that, or like what's being proposed. Or in the future, should you want to transfer some property using the same means and methods, then you got to go through this whole process to get through the whole maze to make sure that it happens. I trust the person who represents the area. I trusted Mayor Bradley when he created this whole produce market area for the purpose of keeping them here in the city of Los Angeles. And now if we let the tenants acquire this property as we had agreed to previously, they will stay here. The operation will not be disrupted. And in addition to that, they go on the tax roll where they pay taxes. I mean, this is the best deal I've seen since I've been here in 16 years in terms of this project being self-supporting, paying for itself, paying back the CRA, and then that money can be used to support other projects similarly situated in the area or in the city. What are we haggling it over unless we represent somebody else's point of interest and not our own? Let's vote against the amended motion. The amendment, vote against it now. Even the maker of the motion vote no. And then let's move on to vote for what's before us. You did.
Thank you. Ms. Mackay.
Thank you, Mr. President. Again, to ask for continuances can't be done quickly. The people we would ask to come back and give the options are the same people at the table saying, we looked at those options in 2001. Mr. Pacheco read, I don't know how many of you heard from his 2001 stat report that we had from an outside consultant to the city's community development department. The conclusions were a third-party purchaser would have no incentive to make improvements. The current lessee is the most motivated party to make improvements. The current lessee should be motivated to pay at least a fair market value to ensuring long-term viability. And the city should consider a direct sale given this analysis. 2001, April 2001, we did this. 2002, this council unanimously, looking at committee reports, looking at recommendations of our staff, said, staff, go negotiate. We've done it. To come to this 11th hour when they negotiated for more money than we thought we were going to get, when they've been tough negotiators, when they've got financing on the table, to say, oh, let's go back and reconsider that report that we got in 2001, that unanimous action that we took in 2002 at the 11th hour and 59th minute, I think is bad faith. We've gotten these people here. The history makes sense. The analysis makes sense. The recommendations from inside and outside staff make sense. And I think continuance is just going to cause an unraveling and put us, if not in a breach of contract, a breach of faith, and definitely bad faith in terms of what we've done. Mr. Pacheco just handed me the October 2002 letter from Mayor Hahn saying your prompt attention to this matter to follow the action recommended by DGS, CAO, the Community Development Department of CDD to negotiate sole source made sense then, it makes sense today. Let's complete the sale.
Thank you, Mr. President. I serve on Information Technology and Services with Councilman Parks, and I served on that committee for the last 2 years, and prior to that with Councilman Mark Lee Thomas. And this matter was before us when Councilman now Senator Ridley Thomas was on this council. council, and I've seen the articles that have been published, and I've seen the patience by Mr. Gardner. I don't know how you have so much patience to withstand this process that you've had to go through. And I've been to the Produce Mart, and I remember when Tom Bradley was the mayor of this fine city, and that came about to help what we need to have done in this city for the people of this great region. So I support having this done, and it's frustrating to think this process and the dollars that are going to come forward and the good that's going to be done with that we would continue to stall and delay and delay. And that's sadly, unfortunately, what happens too often in government is we never make a decision, we just continue to delay it. Mr. Deaton's probably fallen asleep because he's been delayed with this for so long. So I support what was done in committee, support the movement on this. I know we discussed it for the last 2 years that I know, and it's now come to the time that we need to make a decision to move on it. And all of a sudden now people are raising issues regarding this, and those issues have been discussed, debated, resolved. So I would join with Councilman Park, and I'm sure that Councilman Nelson and Ridley Thomas would also support to make this happen and vote yes to have this move forward today. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Zine. Seeing no further speakers, we're ready for the votes. We have the matter before us as well as an amended motion.
Mr. President, there was a motion to continue, and that motion should be voted on first.
Okay, members, the first vote is on the motion to continue. A yes vote continues this matter for 1 week. A no vote asks for action today. Madam Clerk, please open the roll. Please close the roll and tabulate the vote.
3 ayes, 11 no.
Okay, that motion fails. The next vote is on the committee report.
Was listed as a yes, and he voted to support this project. So if the clerk could record it, Mr. Burke is not here.
Okay, let the roll reflect that Mr. Burke has left chambers. That does not change the outcome of the vote. Madam Clerk, on the item itself, please open the roll. Please close the roll and tabulate the vote.
12 ayes, 1 no.
The org goes over for 1 week. It needs 12 unanimous.
Okay, and for everybody's understanding, the ordinance does carry over for a second reading. Next item, please.
Next item, Mr. President. Item number 29, I understand, was called special inadvertently. Do you wish to take up that matter now?
Yes, unless there's other members wishing to speak on item 29. Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please open the roll. Please close the roll and tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
That is approved. Next item, please.
Item number 18, called special by Councilmember Holden.
Mr. Holden. Item 18, Mr. Holden.
I understand, and the controller, someone's going to come to staff give us a report. Thank you, Mr. President. Staff report.
Forthwith on 29, please, as we await staff to report on item 18.
I'm Bill Lamb from the Controller.
Yes, you discussed workers' compensation scorecard mid-year report. And we looking at the number of claims compared to this year, compared to the number of claims last time, but the dollar figure in terms of paying off these claims increased. Can you tell us why?
The personnel department is here that can help answer that. The claims are a mix. They can be a mix. The type of claims, the type of departments. Some claims are more expensive than others.
Why do you think we have a reduction in claims? Give me some background. We do have outside investigators who are investigating these people who make complaints and so on. What have you done to reduce the number of claims, the complaints?
This is Lois Pace from the Personnel Department.
Speak into the mic, ma'am, please.
Lois Pace, Personnel Department. And we've been working with outside investigators as well as the Return to Work program. We've been meeting with the operating departments and talking about trends in claims. And they've been working with us in order to encourage employees to be safe while on the job. So I think we've been more aggressive in terms of being out at the department level and meeting with the DPOs and the team supervisors to get the word out to be safe.
Well, $34 million unsaved. It's been, this is the price tag.
Councilman, a lot of that's driven by the medical technology. The medical cost, the cost of workers' compensation is driven by 60% in medical costs. And that's driven by medical technology, the legislation that allows treating physicians to rule and have the final word.
So most of that cost is for medical?
Most of that cost is for medical, 60%.
What about compensation to the individuals making the claim?
Well, the compensation has increased over the years too, but not at the level of...
You're separated in terms of cost?
We do separate it, so that's about, that would be about, probably about 30%, and then the other would be expensive.
You don't have this report, it's not inclusive.
No, that's just a controller's report based upon information provided by departments and personnel, and it is a summary report. It's a scorecard of how we did in the first 6 months.
Just, you have the attachment here. Just look at K. Explain to the public who's watching you what K represents.
The average... We're looking at attachment 2, right?
Yes.
The average cost...
Attachment 1.
It's the ratio of what the average claim is on the individual.
It says that average workers' compensation paid per claim. Right? And the ratio of the total workers' compensation paid to the total claims. And those numbers are what we're talking about. How many claims would it do? Per claim, total amount paid up per claim. Do you have any numbers on that other than just a statement?
There are backup numbers.
You don't have a ratio, you got a number, the ratio that represents something. So what are the numbers that establishes the ratio?
This is a summary at the total level, the total number of claims by the total amount paid.
So you don't have enough information with us today, and I'm not going to hold your feet to the fire anymore. You just don't, the answers are not here. And, if you come before the council, usually you can expect any question to be asked of you. And of course, the answer will be needed. It's good for the public interest, I think. Certainly good for the members of the council. So, just paper. Thank you.
Mr. Zine.
Thank you, Mr. President. Don't go away yet. Don't go yet. Being the chair of the Personnel Committee, I've been concerned about this for a long time. We've met before and discussed this. I have a graph here that shows 1998, $70 million workers' comp cost the city in 2000 through 2004, $140 million. So we're looking at that constant increase. And I know that we've been meeting and trying to resolve this, meeting with the police department representatives, other representatives in other cities moving forward to bring these numbers down. So I just want to inform our viewers and colleagues that we have an RFP regarding this for certain departments to address this. And clearly, it's gotten out of control. People who oftentimes start with the city in a very positive fashion, for whatever matter, gets disillusioned, and this seems to be the easy way out, and it's costing the taxpayers $140 million, 2003, 2004. But we are moving forward. There's a meeting this afternoon. We have representatives from the Personnel Department, the City Attorney's Office, from the different unions. In fact, the unions are buying into this, saying that they recognize this significant problem, and they're helping us bring a solution and to make some major changes in what we find in this cost. There was a bill in Sacramento which I understand was recently defeated, that was going to extend from 1 year to 2 years, which would have been a further hit to the cities and businesses in the state. So we need to take care of our employees. At the same time, we know that the city attorney's office and some of the other departments have fraudulent investigations that take place because of some abuse, and oftentimes too much abuse with the system. But we are moving forward, and we are making changes, we are making recommendations. I know there's outside consultants who are also viewing this, and I commend the controller for bringing this up to the public arena. We do want to recognize that we're working as quickly as possible and as slow as government is, quickly as possible to rectify, because that's a lot of money to pave a lot of streets, fix sidewalks, and do services for the people of Los Angeles. Do you have any other additional comments on this matter?
No, obviously the controller is concerned about this, is concerned about the cost, and the departments are taking it seriously.
And I think it's for too long a period of time, it's been basically pushed under the carpet and hasn't really been looked at seriously, but I assure you that we are looking at it seriously in the Personnel Committee, and I know that the City Attorney's Office is looking at it seriously, and the Police Department. And if you look at the numbers of claims filed, if you look at the Public Safety Departments, there's a high number of incidents in those departments where we find claims being made. Thank you both for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Zine. Other members wishing to be heard? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please open the roll. Please close the roll and tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
Item 18 is approved. Next item, please.
Item number 19 calls question by Councilmember Reyes.
Mr. Reyes, item 19.
Thank you, Council President. First, I want to make sure that it's clear that I stand to support what's being promoted and proposed here. I know a lot of work has been completed by the staff. They were very courteous in coming in and briefing my staff about the details and the impact. So colleagues, those of you that are listening, I wanted to essentially raise a couple of questions that I need to put out there so that we can look at this issue that I'm about to talk about, and perhaps there's another opportunity coming up as we promote this policy and look at these issues. And that is, quite bluntly, when I was looking at the demographics of our districts, I think many of us would be surprised to see how many of our districts are actually comprised of a high percentage of renters. In some districts, they're at 50%, others at 60%. Mine is at 83%. And there's a question that I need to put out there that deals with who is paying for the hauling of trash. When we look at folks, the tenants who live in apartments, they pay a fee for their trash being hauled away. And we look at the disproportionate number of those who are not paying the trash fee, or those who are being thought of or contemplated paying a small fee. What comes to mind is, where is the level field when it comes to who's supporting the infrastructure from a citywide point of view? And for me, it becomes more poignant when I look at, for example, the challenge we have for our children who are suffering from lead poisoning. And I know the infrastructure is not ready to deal with the high cost of how we deal with those apartment structures who have been contaminated, contaminating young children because of lead poisoning. And that's an ancillary issue that I think can be connected to how these fees are being looked at. We start talking about how we bring back the benefit of those fees into the populations of our city. Indeed, our city itself is one of the highest percentage-wise of renters in the country. I believe the city of Los Angeles is close to 63% of the total population are renters. So I need to throw this issue out there. But make no doubt, I like for us to support what's before us. A lot of work has been put into this. But I felt the nexus was relevant to raise this issue. And I know there will be a time in which we can engage that. I spoke to our personnel, and they said there is an opportunity down the road we start talking about how the benefit, the income stream of those fees, how it comes back into our city. And we need to pay attention to those populations who quite frankly have minimal choices because of the fact that our housing stock is so constrained, our options are so few for those who are of the greatest need. So again, I rise to support this item, but the question must be put out there, and we should be studying and looking at this policy of how are we treating those who rent, how are we treating those who own property, and who are we forcing to pay a fee, and who are those who are not paying this fee, and how long has that been going on in the city? Those are critical questions. Thank you, sir.
Mr. Garcetti.
I'll just be brief, but I'd like to reinforce that. And thank you, Mr. Reyes, for bringing that up. And it's also tied into recycling for commercial and our apartments as well. And I know when this went through, one of the things that we said is we wanted to be able to expand recycling into those units and in commercial areas as well where we don't have a recycling program, because they are paying those fees, and so they should get some benefit, not only of making sure our landfills are not as filled, but also making sure that we do a better job for our natural resources. And as somebody who has 82% of all my residents as renters, definitely we're one of the only cities, the only major city I know, and I think one of the only cities in the country that does this, that actually asks the renters to essentially pay a tax to subsidize the homeowners for this. So I appreciate you, and I just wanted to back that up and reinforce it for staff to hear as well. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Garcetti. Other members wishing to be heard? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please open the roll on the item. Please
That's not a
close.
report? This is a report? It's not amended?
And tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
That is approved. Next item, please.
Item number 20, called special by Councilmember Labange, and there are two reports on the file. They both concur.
Mr. Labange.
Thank you, Mr. President. And members, I just wanted to bring attention, if you would look at this graphic right here, this is the federal funding for water treatment efforts in Los Angeles. If I could call your attention, 1971, there was 75% federal spending to 25 local. And here in 1996 and beyond, you see 100% local spending. It's up to us as representatives to hear the alarm and the importance of water treatment and improving water quality, but at the same time, to get our partners with the federal government, which is making requirements of local government to do the job necessary to improve wastewater. And I just wanted to bring it to all of our attention, because each of us work diligently in various others, whether it's keeping neighborhoods clean, or whether it's trying to reduce the impact the storm drains have in neighborhoods or the actual flows into the river. And asking that you approve this item here so we can go forth to seek help, which we know is a challenge for any level of government, be it state or federal. But if we make this a priority, we could possibly get more support from our California delegation on this very important issue that help keep our city, our river, and our oceans clean. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Mr. Garcetti.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Mr. Labange, for pointing that out. I think this TMDL issue, which comes up time and time again, colleagues, this is the heart of the issue. And any of us who advocate for not, for instance, having lawsuits must also advocate, thank you, Mr. Labange, for making sure that we have this federal formula changed as well. I'll get it in the shot. Here we go. And making sure that we have that reimbursement is going to be critical, because we have unfunded mandates. The Republicans in the 1980s decried unfunded mandates, and suddenly we have one under this administration that says clean up our water but doesn't give us a penny to do it here. And we're looking at billions of dollars in the next decade to clean up our water. You're going to see the nitrogen TMDL colleagues come through as the next one. We've already dealt with a few of them, and as we look at our river cleanup, it's critical as well. We didn't have anything in the proposed budget for TMDLs for this year, but the Budget Committee, just to kind of update you, did talked with the CLA, and we have included some monies that probably will start flowing out this year to begin some of the traps for some of our other TMDL requirements that we have. And I know Mr. Weiss has spoken on this as well. But as we look at those costs, the best thing the federal government can do to prove that they're environmentalists is to give us help with those mandates that they have set, that there be no trash, that there be no bacteria, that there be no nitrogen in our water. We praise them for setting that bar. Now we open our hands to them and ask them to actually be a partner with us. So thanks for this, Mr. Padilla, for introducing us.
Thank you, Mr. Garcia. Are there members wishing to be heard on this item? Seeing none,
Ábrase la lista.
please close the roll and tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
That is approved.
Está aprobado.
Next item, please.
Item number 24, call special, inasmuch as there are cards from the public.
Do you have a card on item
Tenemos la
24,
tarjeta
Mr. Leonard
124,
Shapiro?
señor Leonard
Is he still
Shapiro,
with
si todavía
us?
está con nosotros.
I don't see him in
Yo
the
no lo
audience.
veo en la
Mr.
audiencia.
Shapiro
Señor
going
Shapiro se
once,
va
going
una vez,
twice.
dos veces.
Let's close the
Este es el
public
inventario
comment.
público, el
Item
asunto 24.
Members
Los
wishing to be
miembros que
heard?
deseen ser oídos, señor Reyes.
Thank you, Council
Gracias,
President.
presidente.
Councilman Bernstein had
Señor
asked me if
Branson
I
me ha
can
pedido si yo
speak to
podía
this
hablar
issue
de esta
and
cuestión
request your
y
support for
pedir
his
su
motion,
soporte
been
para su
seconded by
moción segundada por
Council members
concejales.
Labange, I believe, and
Escribo y
Mr. Holder.
el señor Holder.
If I'm reading this
Si
correctly.
estoy leyendo esto correcto.
Colleagues, this is an
Colegas, esto es
opportunity
una
to continue
oportunidad
looking
para
at the
continuar
regional
viendo
issues
las cuestiones
and how we
regionales de cómo es que
approach
nosotros nos acercamos
our abilities to
las
release
habilidades para
the
relevar la
pressures that
presión
are building up in our
que
congested
están construyendo en los
corridors. This is
corredores
a regional
congestionados,
issue
una cuestión
that
regional
provides
que
a
provee
vehicle by which
un
we
vehículo
can
donde
look
nosotros
at the
podemos
various
ver las
routes
diferentes
using the
rutas
maglev technology
usando tecnología
as a
mega
transit
como un
option,
tránsito, una
another
opción
form
y otras
of getting
formas de
from point A
medio
to
entre
point
punto A
B.
a punto B.
Maglev is a project that's been
Este es un
studied by
proyecto que se ha
SCAG,
estudiado por
and I
SCAG
hope to
y
encourage and I
esperemos
vote
concurrir un voto
for
de sí
your
por su
support and
soporte
continually studying
continuando
the
estudiando
option of
la
developing
opción de
different
desarrollar
mode of
diferentes
transportation
modos
that will
de
have a
transportación que van
significant regional
significativamente
impact.
regional impacto.
That's when I vote.
Voto un voto
Mr. Labange.
Señor Labange.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Gracias,
Again,
presidente, otra vez,
Mr.
señor
Reyes
Reyes.
so eloquently said about the
Elocuente dijo
future and
acerca
regional
del futuro y
planning.
planes
This is
regionales.
key. We should
Esto es
really,
clave, esto es,
Halliburton
debemos
has worked
ayudar a esta
so hard
persona
for
que
many
trabaja tan
years
duro
on
por tantos
this
años
regional
en esto.
approach here, not only with MTA, but with
Evento
SCAG,
regional, pero
on this,
SCAG y MTA.
this type
Esto es
of
clase
mag
de
level, which now
nivel
we
mega
should really
que
try to
deberemos de
discuss
tratar de
every time we're in
discutir
a
cada
community
vez que
meeting,
estamos
whether
en
we're
una junta de
talking
comunidad, cuando
about
estamos
the
hablando
gridlocks that are facing the traffic, that this is the potential for the future,
encadenamientos
which
de
have a great
potencia por el
impact
futuro que tiene
between Union Station and
Union
San Gabriel Valley, out through Ontario,
Ontario,
etc., and all over
y por
the
todas
region as
partes
they
de la
improve.
región
And we
cuando
have to look
mejoran.
to the future. I
Tenemos
just
que ver al
wanted
futuro y
to
más
stand
quería
and
esto
thank
para
Mr.
darle
Burton
gracias
and
a
also
la
Mr.
Asociación
Holden
Asociación
for his
Holden
work in the
por su
past on
trabajo en
this
el pasado en esta
arena,
área,
because the mag
porque
level is
la
a thing of
nivel
the
mega
future that we
es el
should
cosa
get
del
for
futuro que
today.
debemos de
Thank you,
agarrar.
Mr.
Gracias,
President.
señor presidente.
Mr. Zine.
Señor Sain.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues,
Presidente, colegas.
Mr. Perry from my
Señor
office
Perry
is
de
bringing
mi
up
oficina está
some
trayendo
business cards
algunas
from some
tarjetas de
representatives who've
algunos
been following
representantes
us
que
and
han
working
seguido
on
este
this
trabajo en
project, the
este proyecto,
JPA.
JPA.
And I
Y
discussed
yo
this with
discutí
the
esto
Senator
con
Keith Richmond. He's very
Richmond,
concerned
que está
that we do
preocupado
something
que
at a
hagamos
regional
algo a nuestro
level.
nivel regional.
And what this will
Y
do
con
is
esto
help
va a
us
hacer
bring
es
something
ayudarnos
together
algo
in a regional
junto en
level
un nivel
instead of
regional en vez
the bits and pieces that we've been
de
doing,
esos que hemos estado haciendo.
transportation
De
concerns.
transportación.
Bruce Burrows.
Bruce Burrows.
Bruce, if you take a bow.
Si te puedes
I know you're
acercarse,
from
yo sé
a
que
neighboring
usted
city, a
es
council
ciudad del
member.
vecindario del
And
concejal.
we have
Y tenemos
Christine
a
Robert,
Christina
president of the
Robert,
Robert Group.
presidente del grupo Robert.
And we
Y
have
tenemos
Commissioner
comisionador
and Mr.
y el señor
Perdón from Albert Perdón Associates, way down in Cerritos, California.
desde Cerritos, California. Entonces,
you folks have been working on
están
this
trabajando en
project,
este proyecto.
and I know that there's this
Yo sé que hay
JPA that we want with neighboring
queremos
communities
comunidades
in Los
de
Angeles County.
vecindarios del condado de Los
Briefly, if you can just give us just a brief
darnos
view of how this will connect
cómo
with
esto
our
conectaría
operations.
esta operación.
If I may, I'm Bruce
Sí,
Burrows. I'm
Bruce Burrows, yo soy
the
el
past mayor of the city of Cerritos. I
his term limited out just, this past March. We know how that feels, Councilmember Holden. He feels your pain.
Yeah, there's a few here I know that are dealing with that later this month. This body voted 2 years ago to support a study done from JPA For the orange line, to be very specific, which is from Union Station or Staples down to either Anaheim or Santa Ana, the city voted to put $10,000 into the study. It was the one that's more quickly moving forward from the city's point of view. We had every single city on the corridor put money into this. Every single city voted to support it. Because what you're being asked to do to move forward to get closer to joining the JPA. The other cities are in the process of doing that. They're in the process of joining the JPA effective this next week. I know several cities have on their agenda. What we're trying to do is to move this forward in a way that will encourage economic development and to take back over the technological leadership that our state has had, and also to try and keep those jobs for this technology here in Southern California, and in particular the LA Basin. And with that, I'll turn this over to Al Cadan.
I'm Al Cadan. I look forward to working with the council offices, with the departments as we move this project forward. I think this is a good project for the city, and look forward to working with you.
Thank you. I know that Keith Richmond, Assemblyman, is very involved in this. The other jurisdictions up and down the track. So I know that your tenacity, and I also appreciate you've been here since 10 o'clock this morning. It's now almost 10 minutes to 1. So your patience with this, and I would urge that we support this to move forward, since we have found with this recent Ventura Freeway widening project that went down in flames, the $3 billion project that would have displaced thousands of people, homes, churches, schools, etc. We need to come up with something that's reasonable, that we can move the transportation focus of the people from the Great San Pedro, the Port of Los Angeles, to the San Fernando Valley, to Griffith Park, to Marshall High School, and the surrounding jurisdictions. So I would urge you to vote on this. Thank you.
Mr. Holden.
JPA, Joint Powers Authority, and the participating or contributing government agencies. How much money will the city have to come up with, really, to start?
There is several different formulas what the length of the track would be. If it starts from Santa Ana to...
I understand that, but is what you're going to tell us?
It's around, I believe, $70,000, $80,000.
How much?
70 or 80,000.
70, 80,000 initially. Is that annually?
No, that's for the first 6 months, but we believe that there's money to go ahead and cover the rest of from that point on from the private source. Now, if it's going to go up all the way from, say, Anaheim, Santa Ana to Palmdale, Lancaster, it will rise up into the mid 130, 40,000 range.
Well, the point is, this sounds like seed money to the private sector.
It's just to operate the JPA.
I understand, but if the private sector coming in and they're going to contribute their money, and they become the operators and the engineers and the attorneys and the design. All right, Al? So that's what it sounds like to me, but it can still be beneficial to the people of the city of Los Angeles or the people that this in the region that will be served. But I'm just saying, up front, that's what we're talking about, right?
Yeah, there will be a cost involved. Your action today is to ask the CAO and the CLA to come back in 30 days with a report that will lay out exactly what the cost would be. So your action today allows us to work with the departments to come back in 30 days to detail all of those issues with the financial.
Mr. Zine reminded me what's going to happen June 30. Could you come back in 25 days?
We'll do our best.
In honor of Mr. Holden, I will call it special when it comes back. In honor of you, sir.
Okay, Al, you were with me in RTD, and you've done a good job in the field of transportation, and you also. And so we'll support the concept. The members of the council at that time will vote to determine if they should participate to what extent. But nothing ventured, nothing gained. There were those who said, let's not have a red line. Let's not have any transit. Let's get rid of the old car that they had, red car. And they did that in the interest of trying to get freeway. It's always a guy named Collier, who became the godfather of the freeway, Senator Collier, major person in terms of developing transportation, but the mode of transportation in the state of California. That was one such mode. But then, of course, it goes on. The freeway took away our red car. So now we're trying to bring it back, and we can do this with this system, maglev system, and fine, so be it. I will support you. You're a good guy.
Thank you, Mr. Holden. Ms. Hahn.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, I certainly rise in support of this study. By the way, the red car we're bringing back in San Pedro. The original red car will now be running all along the waterfront to carry tourists from the cruise ships out to Cabrillo Beach. But I do stand in support of this. I think this is really the right time for us to be looking at this. I hope we do more this time than just look at it. I hope we have some leaders who are willing to really put political will behind this. I think the maglev is a great, innovative use of technology. It's fascinating. I remember in 1960 when my father and he took his whole family. We went up to Seattle for the World's Fair, and at that time the monorail was a model project at the World's Fair, and there was actually a company who was willing to come down to Los Angeles in 1960 and build a monorail system at no cost to Los Angeles and run it along our freeway system, and no one had the vision, no one had the foresight, and even though there was going to be no initial cost to the county, they voted against it. So we've waited way too long to have this kind of transportation in our city. I think anybody that ever arrives at our airport from anywhere else in the world must just be dumbfounded at the lack of our good public transportation in and around the city and the county of Los Angeles. So I've always been a big fan of maglev. I think it's a great idea, and hopefully, again, we'll show some real leadership, some real political will, and even be willing to put our money where our mouth is. You know, many people didn't think the Alameda Corridor would be built. That's also a joint powers agreement between two cities, two ports, and two railroads, of all things, which nobody thought would ever come together in agreement on anything, and they were able to build the largest public works project anywhere on time and on budget. So I think now is definitely time to support this and look at this. I will be watching this and willing to support this all along the way.
Thank you, Ms. Hawkins.
Anyway, I just wanted to can't talk enough about it. Let's vote for it and support it.
Thank you, Mr. Labange. Is there members wishing to be heard? Seeing none, please open the roll. Please close the roll and tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
That is approved. Please. Next item.
This is the time for comments from the public on items not on council's agenda.
Members, this is a public comment period for today's meeting. Council calls forward Charles Green, followed by Warren Williams and Colin Moore.
Warren Williams. We are asking for this council to support a DAS month from May 22nd to July 1st. We have requested that the Board of Supervisors give us a proclamation. We understand from Supervisor Burke's deputy Josie that is going to be granted. We've also submitted to the mayor that proclamation will be made. We're saying that two proclamations will be made. One is for DAS Month, and the other one is for African American DAS Month. There will also be a festival that will be submitted to Councilman Parks and to Councilman Holden to support. One of the issues that's throughout our community is the lack of a stage as well. We urge that this council will find a means whereby there can be stages made available more for the community. The DAS Festival will take place on June the 13th and the 14th. We request the use of Lamar Park. We ask for fees to be waived, the use of the restrooms and power and other things there. We're asking that each council will identify DAS in your district that you would award at that ceremony. The emphasis again on the African American part of the DAS month is because a lot of problems in the community of violence and other issues will be resolved when more dads are empowered to be at home, be part of their families. We've urged that there be changes in the LA Unified School District where they would have special days for non-custodial parents to be involved in school. There's been a lot of statistics that's been given proving that when fathers are involved in their home, that children and the whole family is better off. Dad is also just a festive time of the year. It's a very important time of the year to honor our dads. So we're asking that the recreational facilities and departments will also support send entertainment honor the dads as well. So we're asking again for this council support and a Dads Month as well as the Dads Festival and the African American Festival.
Thank you very much. Is Charles Green with us? Mr. Green has left. Colleen Moore is also left.
If I may submit this for the file.
Yes, have the sergeant take that. If they're no longer here, then this concludes public comment for today's meeting. Madam Clerk, next item, please.
Council has motions for posting and referral.
Motion shall be posted and referred.
There are excuses on the desk. Councilmember Reyes requests to be excused Wednesday, June 4th to leave at 11 a.m. for city business that meets council policy.
Mr. Reyes is excused.
Councilmember Weiss requests to be excused Wednesday, June 18th, city business for the off-site meeting that also meets council policy.
Mr. Weiss is excused.
Councilmember Perry requests to be excused Friday, June 13th to leave at 10:45 and Wednesday, July 2nd to arrive at 11:15. A motion is required for June 13th.
Mr. Zine moves. Mr. Perry is excused.
And Councilmember Garcetti requests to be excused Wednesday, June 4th to leave at noon and July 1st and 2nd, and those are all for city business and they meet council policy. And that clears it up.
Okay. Members, are there any announcements today? Mr. Labange.
The American Red Cross is on Main Street right outside of City Hall in their blood drive. And just to remind people, if it's not today, tomorrow, not tomorrow, sometime in the future if they can, donate blood. The American Red Cross needs volunteers. And just call your local American Red Cross chapter for those of you who could. At this time, donate blood to a much-needed cause for all of us. Thank you.
Mr. Labange, and Healthy Adults.
1-800-GIVE-LIFE is thanks to Janice Hahn, the great person that she is.
Mr. Labange, and a healthy adult can give blood how often?
5 times a year.
Every 58 days. Other announcements? Other announcements? Are there adjourning motions today? Call any adjourning tributes? Seeing none. Madam Clerk. Adjourning tribute, Mr. Labange? Okay, please rise for adjourning motions. Mr. Labange.
Thank you.
Gracias, miembros. Me gustaría pedir que tenemos en memoria de William Nicholas Tejan, de los presidentes de las Phillies, que fue graduado de la comunidad de calle Cortés, la Escuela Belmont,
UCLA, Anderson School of
Anderson School de Negocios, un prominente de comida por 50 años, condado,
Romar Inc., having served as president and CEO, chairman of the board. He retired in 1995 to enjoy life for the love of his life, his lovely wife. He's been an active member of the National Food Brokers Association, serving in many capacities as chairman of the Education Committee, just as one note. He was a board member for the Hollywood Community Hospital, the Society of St. Vincent de Paul, and he also was president of the Assistance League of California. He also was an active member of our Mother of Good Catholic Church, which is our parish church, and would always greet him. As I sat in the back to the right, he and Mrs. Tejan were on the back to the left. He was a wonderful man who lived for many, many years in Las Vegas and lived a good life, and now he's with his maker. I ask that we adjourn in his memory, William Nicholas Tejan.
Thank you, Mr. Labange. Other tributes? Mr. Weiss.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, I ask that you join me in adjourning today in memory of two just extraordinary lawyers. One was named Jesse Duke Minnia, who was a professor of property law at UCLA School of Law for several years, one of the country's leading experts in the area of property law. Just a wonderful, delightful man. Hundreds, if not thousands, of people passed through UCLA Law School in the decades that he taught there, all with fond memories, including me. He was the very first law professor that I had on my very first day of law school at UCLA. Very missed by everybody in the UCLA family. Our nation lost one of its greatest civil rights lawyers yesterday, Burke Marshall, who was Assistant Attorney General for Civil Rights in the Kennedy and Johnson administration, passed away at the age of 80. He was not a flashy man. He was very well known in legal circles, but he was not a famous man in comparison with so many others who served in those administrations. But he may have done more than anyone else in the Kennedy and Johnson administrations to serve and advance the cause of civil rights in the 60s when James Meredith attempted to enter the University of Mississippi. Marshall was on the phone with him,
estaba en el teléfono con él, estuvo en el teléfono con él en los meses y años después de eso, haciendo con cosas, muchas cuestiones. Él va a ser alguien que va a recordarse como Jesse Dignity va a ser gerente.
Thank you, Mr. White, for the tributes. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Ábrese la lista. Esto terminó.
Thank you all very much. This meeting is adjourned.